and public comments. Public comments must be brief. The board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. Do we have any public comments? Looks like we have one here from Chief Hurley. I'll call on him. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two quick comments. Last month, I received a resignation from one of my dispatchers, Sabrina Fitzgerald. She joined the department in 2016, and it was an exciting hire. She was young, in her 20s, and a local resident. But I think with the few personal reasons and looking to relocate to Maine, she did leave middle of August. So I wish her the best. We did have a process, and we've hired one of our internal candidates, Evangeline Kakunis, a graduate of Monomoy Regional High School System, and she's been with us for 3 years as a community service officer, a matron, and a relief dispatcher. So we're excited to have her on board as our new dispatcher. The second quick announcement, yesterday and last evening, we put out a press release regarding 2 unfortunate vandalism incidences in town to personal property. And again, I just want to remind everyone, the department has zero tolerance for the destruction of any property, any political sign of any nature. And both cases are under investigation. And if any suspects are sought in either case, they will be prosecuted through the district court. So I just wanted to give that quick update. Thank you.
Good, thanks, Chief. Helen?
Yeah, it's time to mourn the passing of Peter Watts, somebody who lived in this community for decades and who served on the Zoning Board of Appeals for decades, and also represented Wellfleet very well as a property owner in the National Seashore on the Association of National Seashore Property Owners, but also serving as a voice of Wellfleet in that capacity. And through you to Janet. Janet, did he serve on the advisory commission for the park too? Janet?
She's muted.
Anyway.
I'm unmuting her.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yes. He will be much missed. He was a great man, and he added to the mix of the town in the best way. Rest in peace, Peter.
Thank you, Helen.
It looks like John Reel, and then I also have an announcement.
Okay, John Reel.
I'm here because of the later issue. I'm not now.
Then you're going to stay muted.
Okay.
Okay. So my announcement will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Council on Aging, and the special town election will take place on Tuesday, September 8th from noon to 7 at the Council on Aging, and mask and glove wearing are encouraged and appreciated. And later in this evening's program, we will have further information about election and mail-in ballots and things of that nature.
Courtney, are you not required to wear a mask when you go in person vote?
If you don't have if you can remain 6 feet, but it's strongly encouraged and required, yes, of course. Okay. It's the same rules that apply everywhere if you can't maintain social distance, and you have a medical reason, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and that's it for public comments and announcements. Okay, we have public hearings. The first hearing is a transfer of a shellfish grant, 2008-01 from Ralph W. Bassett to Ralph W. Bassett and Russell A. Junkins. And I will be recused from this. So Janet, as vice chair, I ask that you take care of this one. Thanks.
Thank you. Am I unmuted? Good. Thank you. So we have, as Michael just stated, transfer shellfish grant number 2008-01 from Ralph Bassett to Ralph Bassett and Russ Junkins. I have a question, or some questions, and it's really not contesting this. It's just for my own information, because shellfishing is such a vast business that I just want some information. So with something like this, does it, how, excuse me, how does it work and how does it not go back into the town property and automatically have a lottery? When do we have a lottery? If someone's giving up their grant, how does it get? And I guess I'm asking this because how do we get new participants or young participants in shell fishing?
It looks like Helen will have the answer.
Okay.
Yes. So Janet, two separate questions. The lottery only happens when there's nobody else on the grant. In other words,
Okay.
if somebody dies or gives up a grant, which has happened in my time on the board, and nobody else is on the grant, then there's a lottery. That's the answer to your first question. And there's a very clear section about it in the regs. So that's good. The second question is this. You asked, given that it's good to have younger people coming in, right? A lot of times that happens because people come on and work on somebody's grant, whether they're the children of the grant, the licensees, or just an employee, and they get a kind of apprenticeship. And then eventually, often, and Mike can attest to this if he wants and tell me I'm all wrong, but I'm not because I've seen it happen. They get to be on the grant. It can take a while. It's a very big deal to add somebody to your grant. I mean, I know people who get married and they don't add their spouses onto their grants. So it's a big commitment, and that's how it happens. And a lot of younger people get folded in. So from everything I've seen in the process, it's a good one. Does that answer everything?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes. I'm muted again.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yes. And again, this, as I said, this is such a vast subject that it's going to take me even more years than it already has to learn it. Okay. So thank you, Helen. So I will then open it up to the board and the public for any comments on this.
Justina?
Yeah, I agree with Helen. I think that when someone's done an apprenticeship, it's a great program, and there's many different ways it works. I did have a lot of questions about this particular transfer, and I had the pleasure of speaking with Nancy, who was generous enough to give me quite a bit of her time, given that she has such a lot of responsibilities. And grant transfers, of course, are only one part of what she does. And she did, as in other occasions, indicate the select board does have some leeway. So some of my questions were the location of the grant, which is contiguous to, as what I understand, if I have it right, some relatives of Russell Avery, Russell Jenkins, who I understand he also is a grant holder already. So it's my understanding that there's about 5 acres owned one way or another by what some people call the Avery Farm. I'm not sure what it really is called. And this half acre is contiguous to it and would be taken over by Mr. Junkins, who wants to teach his 8-year-old how to farm, which I think is nice. But I don't think he needs a half acre to do that. So I think for me, given the murkiness of this is a wonderful opportunity for the select board to either exercise its rights in taking a closer look or perhaps throw it to Shellfish Advisory, because this is really an extension of an existing farm and not a small one. So I think we need to be extra careful. There isn't an existing worker going on it, really. We really do have we have families of every age in Wellfleet for whom half an acre is an economic lifeline. And I feel strongly about that. And I think that should get looked into. It hurt me very much that Clifford Avery lost his grant. And I think that an 8-year-old doesn't need a half acre to be taught by his grandfather when his grandfather already owns acreage. Well,
Nancy is on.
I'll just get on it.
Thank you. Nancy?
Hi, sorry, I am late to this meeting and I apologize. So I just want to clarify who's who here. Russell Junkins is a gentleman who's going on to Ralph, or is requesting, Ralph is requesting to add Russ Junkins to his grant. Russ wants to teach his grandson, as Justina was saying. So Russ Junkins also has 1 acre. His name is on a 1 acre grant, which is contiguous to this half acre. And that's what Russ Junkins has his name on. I know that Justina was referring to the Avery farm, and Rodney Avery is Russ's son-in-law. But it's Rodney who has 5 acres, not Russ. Russ has 1 acre currently under lease and asking to get the 0.5 acres here. So I just want to make sure that it's that is clear. And then if there's any questions, Helen, I'm sorry I missed what you had to say, but if there's any questions, I'm available, and I apologize for being tardy.
That's okay. Thank you. Helen?
Janet?
Yeah.
Yes, a couple things I forgot to mention. One is state law, as well as our shellfish regulations, and probably CMR for the Division of Marine Fisheries. There's a right to transfer. Now, one of the great things about our shellfish constable is that she gives us the paperwork we need. This applicant has checked off and is entirely qualified for this. There is no thing that this applicant lacks in order to be transferred onto somebody else's grant. In other words, to be a co-licensee. That's one important thing, Justina. In other words, it's not something that's debatable in terms of the qualification. And given that, I, of course, wondered how many acres does anybody have here? And if we're talking about there being 5 adjacent acres and 1 more acre and then half an acre, that is not 7. And meanwhile, Mr. Junkins only has 1 acre. So even if he was named to the 5 acre situation also, it still wouldn't be 7. Now, the thing about his family member that he wants to give, raise in the business, that doesn't, I don't care what he does with it, just as long as he complies with our regs and so forth. It doesn't make it more appealing to me or not. It's great if younger people want to do it. But that's, in my opinion, actually not in my opinion, what we've got in our regs very clearly is there are criteria, and they don't have to do with weighing personal things or things that are arbitrary or personal or not arbitrary and important, but they're not in the regs. The regs are very clear. And if we go outside of the regulations, right, we are not acting as a regulatory board. There are very few things that are debatable in the regulations that are not prescribed accurately and clearly, and this is certainly not one of them. So this person complies, this person has because Nancy would let us know about
Chair,
that.
through you, Helen, it's in the written application, so I bring it up in terms of the relevancy of the application in that it's part of the stated use of the grant.
Yeah, no, I know. I know that.
I assume he's older. I'm not going to make a federal case out of it, but I think documentation is important. So if his stated use is to teach his grandson clamming and shellfishing, then that's what he said.
No, I wasn't finished. I didn't take note. I took note of that, but didn't apply it to my take on this application because it's not up to us what he does on it, just so long as he complies. In other words, he could do that with his grandson or not. I don't mind hearing it. I read it. It is in there, but it doesn't have to do with what we can base our decision on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Hearing none, can I have a motion? Anybody?
Yeah, Janet?
Yes.
I move to approve the transfer of Shellfish Grant number 2008-01 from Ralph W. Bassett to Ralph W. Bassett and Russell A. Junkins as recommended by the Shellfish Constable.
Is there a second? So, Courtney, I'm not seeing Ryan on here. Is Ryan here?
Ryan's got his hand.
Yes.
I am. Sorry, I was unmuted.
Okay, all right.
Muted.
Do you have any comments about this? Do you want to vote? Do you want a second?
No, I'll second the motion.
Okay, all right. So motion has been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Helen, aye.
Justina?
Nay.
Ryan, aye.
And Janet, aye. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, so now we move, is Michael coming back?
I'm back.
Okay,
Okay. Route 6 and Main Street project update and discussion. Now, before we get started, I just want to clarify that this is about the Department of Transportation project, not the Department of Conservation and Recreation project. This is a limit of work, I believe, request for comment. And I think Jill's here.
yeah, she is.
Is she muted?
Yes, but she has her hand raised.
Okay. Jill, I'll let you.
She's here. She's unmuted.
Okay. Jill,
Hello.
What Stantec's looking for from the board, and what exactly what exactly we're commenting on here?
Sure. So we just recently submitted a 25% design submission to Mass DOT, and the town also gets a copy of the submission. And with that submission, we reach out to municipalities and in different committees and agencies to alert them to the fact that we have a project going on. We're a little bit ahead of the game with this project because we've already had a few coordination meetings to discuss the project, the design to date. So I do think we're a bit ahead of the game with this than we typically are with a 25% design submission. But the intent of this letter is just to collect feedback from the community regarding any concerns or items they want to see addressed with the project. After our 25% design submission is reviewed by Mass DOT and the town, we will be having a formal 25% design public hearing in which we'll present to the community all of the specifics about the design. And then just to kind of give you a quick overview also of the process moving forward after that, we'll also have a few more submissions with the state that the state and town will have an opportunity to review. So after our 25% design public hearing, we'll have a 75% design submission, 100%, and then the final documents would be PS&E when the project advertises. So we're still early on in the game, so this is just an opportunity for the community to submit any additional comments or concerns that they have for the project area that they'd like to see addressed with our project.
Okay, so that being said, I think we can go around the board and maybe discuss or ask any questions individually that we have about the DOT project. And I'd like to keep it limited to just this limit of work. And I'm not sure how much of this schematic that Jill sent is probably a preliminary of what we'll see in the 25% design. Is that what that is, Jill?
Yes.
Okay. So I was kind of thinking, and this is kind of up to the board, if it would make sense for us to sort of go through and give our concerns or comments, feedback individually as board members, and then maybe have Courtney put together those as she would in the minutes and submit them to Stantec, so you have a written documentation of it. That may simplify the project. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that. And if that works for Stantec.
Yep, that works for us.
Okay. So I have Helen first. I believe Helen had her hand up first. Do you want to? Would you like to speak on it first, Helen?
A number of things. I did some homework today. I re-listened to the whole hearing on March 10th, 2020. And I first of all want to remark, only commenting on the DOT part of this, how extraordinarily written in stone in speaking about it. The man whose name I can't remember, I like him very much, Andy, who spoke for the DOT, described the project as if it was already decided. And as it has already been decided and repeatedly presented at different meetings in different ways, some of them not attended by the public, just by abutters or not everybody that should have been there, there has been a lot of feedback. And I don't feel that it has been responded to in the designs that we have seen submitted to us right up to the one that we got for this meeting. That's the first thing. Stantec is working for us. I had a productive conversation, only speaking as an individual today, with Jill, which I appreciate because there were things that I didn't quite understand. And there's an invitation in the letter we got, the second version of the letter we got that was sent on July 24th. There were a couple of things I didn't understand. And Jill said, if any of you want to call up and ask questions, do it. So I did, and I understood more. But let's go back to October 22nd, 2014. What we wanted, and I read the notes from that meeting, which Jill also sent me, which I will share with the board after this meeting. I only got them too late to have them included. We wanted the traffic light fixed, and we wanted that one part of the intersection addressed, because that was where the most year-round near misses and fender benders and some accidents happened. And here we are 6 years later, and it still hasn't happened. And so my first question is, why is it that this is not the first thing that's going to be done? The description on March 10th of this year from Andy from the DOT was they were going to do three separate things. And Julian Sear went over this. And the last one is resurfacing from Eastham to Truro, which is great. And they're only going to address the traffic light then. And I thought about it, and I thought about it. And then I thought, I really don't get, in terms of putting infrastructure in or paving roads, why it is that this most important part of the improvement of that intersection, which is the only thing we asked for initially, isn't happening first. That was my first question that I would like passed to the DOT. Maybe there's somebody from the DOT listening. And then to proceed to my feedback on what we saw today, the plan sets. I don't feel that having that much of the road taken up by an inviting sidewalk along that strip with that many curb cuts is going to make it safer. I absolutely don't. I think that having normal width breakdown bike lanes on either side of the road with lots of sharrows makes sense. And having invitations because of the terminus that's being proposed by the other agency, which I'm not going to go into, would not affect the people that use that part of the highway for bicycling ordinarily. It would improve them getting through the whole intersection because all parts of lanes on both sides would be the same width, available on both sides, and they could just continue. The last thing I wanted to say is sidewalks that go past Siemens Bank are not necessary. People don't walk there. And I have to say that using sidewalks particularly with 90-degree curbs is actually more unsafe for people that are at all unsure of, walking unsurely, which I've been up until this year, and people with strollers or people walking bikes. In other words, having these sidewalks, if there's any kind of structural jump from where a bicycle might be to where somebody might be walking, I think is a very bad idea. I strongly urge the rest of the board to re-listen to our March 10th meeting because I had forgotten a lot of it and it really, really is helping me tonight. So that's all I'm going to say now. I want very much to hear what everybody else is going to say. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan Curley's got his hand up, but does anyone else have their hand up? Ryan? Okay. Go ahead, Ryan. And just on the DOT.
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a couple technical questions that haven't really been covered. One is so does this project impact Duck Creek? It looks like on the schematics that might extend the bulkhead out a little bit onto Duck Creek. And then in terms of the at the Main Street Route 6 intersection, is there, it doesn't look like there's a concrete separator between the two lanes of traffic. Currently there is that out there right now, and I'm sure we've all seen cars that have crossed it or stopped on that area of the divider to avoid, luckily going into oncoming traffic. And then the other issues are, or that haven't really been touched on, is there's a culvert that goes under Main Street to Haas Pond. I know that the DOT has told the Conscom that there was going to be a study to figure out what the long-term solution to that particular culvert is. I would really like to see what that is so that we're not in a situation where we end up with something built and then say that we want to add something. And then another issue is the stormwater management. It looks like it's using a lot of the pre-existing infrastructure, which includes direct outflows into Haas Pond from the highway. And one of the things we're really struggling with as a town is coming up with a feasible plan for Duck Creek in terms of reducing the impact of nitrogen on that sub-embayment. I think that we should really be encouraging Santec and the DOT to be looking for ways to upgrade the stormwater management to reduce the nitrogen inflows into that water body. I don't know if you can answer any of those questions, Jill.
Sure. So I was just, so the impact to the creek is, we have been asked to replace the head wall on the south side of Main Street in that area. It's not that our project is impacting it. I believe that Mass DOT, when they were replacing the tide gate there, noticed that the wall was starting to fail. So they just wanted to roll replacement of that head wall into our project. So the only impacts are a result of replacing that head wall. For the concrete separator, yes, we are proposing to take that out, and we're adding that left turn pocket for vehicles to, I guess the hope is that by having that pocket there, it's going to give people a safer refuge to wait for a break in traffic to be able to turn left into the pharmacy. And so hopefully that won't be needed anymore. So the cross section is just going to look similar to what it does on the approaches, where you have opposing lanes without that concrete separation there. The culvert under Main Street, I do know that Mass DOT is working with another sub-consultant on evaluating the tide gate. I believe they're doing a hydraulic study to determine whether or not that tide gate should be replaced with a tide gate that allows for more two-way flow between the creek and Hawes Pond. I've been somewhat removed, but from what I understand, I think with the new tide gate that's out there now, the water isn't flowing north as much as it was, and the Hawes Pond area is drying up. So I do believe they are looking at a hydraulic analysis to see if there's a different tide gate that should be used. I have not heard any final direction on that, but I believe that if they are going to change the tide gate, it would probably also get rolled into our project.
Okay, and the stormwater management?
Yep, so stormwater management, I will check back with our drainage engineers. We are proposing some infiltration basins or leaching galleys within the project area. Unfortunately, my expertise does not extend enough to know whether or not that is going to help with the nitrogen treatment. I know that the infiltration basins are good for some things, but for removal of other pollutants, sometimes we want to see a stormwater basin. We did evaluate a stormwater basin with our 25%, but the only areas that looked like it could potentially fit a stormwater basin without impacting private property were within the flood zone. And there were also higher water elevations in that area. So we wouldn't be able to get enough separation in order to have that stormwater basin function the way it would need to. But I will certainly circle back with our drainage engineers and have more of a discussion specific to nitrogen removal and whether or not there are any additional features we can add to try to address that.
Okay. And then my comments on the rest of the project is that, I've said this before, is that the west side of Route 6 is the side that's safer. A lot of it's being driven by the bike trail extension to accommodate that traffic, but that's different. We're not really discussing the bike trail here right now, but so it went from a multi-use path on where the current 11-foot sidewalk is to basically a multi-use path plus on-road bike lanes. And I mean, it's like adding additional traffic flows. And that area is really not safe. In my opinion, I don't think there's a way to make it safe. But we're adding basically, two additional lanes of traffic from pedestrians and bicyclists, rather than adding one, seems to be even worse than what the original proposals were. It's kind of like I'm kind of regarding the bicycle access portions of it as like a poorly made sausage. We've had a lot of input from different things that have added up to a less than ideal solution. And that's my opinion on this, specifically on the bike lanes and pedestrian access to the project area. In terms of the improvements to the Route 6 roadway itself, they're badly needed. We need left-hand turn lanes to Cahoon Hollow Road, to the pharmacy, and we do need safe crossing spots on Route 6. We have right now. There's only one safe crossing spot on the entire Route 6, and that's at School Street. It's the only light that you can cross safely on if you're a pedestrian or bicyclist. So that's just my thinking on it right now. I'm not a huge fan of the project because of the bicycle and pedestrian issues, but I am a supporter of the roadway improvements overall. I am a little leery of some of them, but like not having the concrete dividers is one. But we'll see how it goes. That's it for me for right now.
Okay, Janet had her hand up next. Go ahead, Janet.
Thank you. So hi, Jill. Are the sidewalks that are going down Main Street and along Route 6, they're not, how elevated are them? And I guess in some people's mind that they're the same granite curbstone as an Eastham, but are they going to be more flush with the actual roadway and just delineated? How big are these sidewalks going to be, the height of them from the road?
Mm-hmm. So the sidewalk that we're currently proposing on Main Street, anytime a sidewalk is right up against the roadway, we do use that straight curb to keep vehicles from riding up on the sidewalk. So that is about a 6-inch reveal. So it'll be 6 inches higher than the adjacent roadway. Along Route 6, we're using the sloped granite curb. So it's that curbing that's sloped at a 45-degree angle, and that's only about a 4-inch raise on that.
Okay. And I would think you would accommodate the businesses that are on Route 6 so that people could get in and out easily from their parking lots?
Yes, correct. Yep. We maintain all of the driveway access points.
Yep. And then just for clarification with the Route 6 turn lanes, is there going to be any kind of a, I just forgot the word. I want to say like a steel girder, but that's not it. A guardrail. Are there any guardrails to delineate between north and south at the lights and at Cahoon Hollow? Or any kind of a raised or painted area on the road?
Currently, there are no concrete islands proposed on Route 6.
Yeah.
We just have the double yellow center lines, which is similar to what the roadway cross-section looks like prior to the intersection.
Yeah, you may want to consider just a guardrail. Do you know what I mean? Is that the right word? Just down the center, especially at first when people aren't used to not having the island in the middle. I don't know.
Just the bollards to separate traffic visually.
I guess that's what you use now. Are bollards what's along the last part of Route 6 through Orleans?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think something to visually separate them would be safe. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justina? Justina's muted.
You need to accept the unmute, Justina.
Yeah, I think she just dropped.
Yeah, she just dropped.
Dropped off. Okay, I will just go next then, since
Helen?
she dropped off, unless she pops right back up here. But my concerns really are basically the amount of revisions that have taken place as a result of the rail trail terminus to accommodate for more or an increased use of pedestrian and recreational bicycle travel. I don't believe that the original, that DOT would have necessarily gone this direction with the width of the sidewalks and the amount of north and southbound traffic that it is sort of accommodated on that on that eastern side of the highway, the side with Cumberland Farms and all the other businesses and curb cuts. I'm still concerned with, just I think that the highway needs to be made safer for bikes and pedestrians who are users of that roadway. It's clearly dangerous the way it is. I just hope that the DOT is working to make it as safe as possible, regardless of the DCR's plan. I know DCR intends on ending that bikeway at the highway. The only reason I'm mentioning it is because their plan has altered the plan that the DOT has put forward, and I'm not sure to what degree. It's hard to tell. But I know that maybe Jill can just speak to any of the waivers that they had to get to change the plan from what DOT would normally do in this situation.
Sure. There's a little bit of gray area there because Mass DOT just released a new directive earlier in the year that addressed requirements for bicycle and pedestrian access for any Mass DOT project. And per that new directive, any high-speed road, high-traffic road would require either buffered bike lanes or an like a separate facility, so a shared use path. And I believe one of our alternatives did propose the shared use path, but with the concern for the extension of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, encouraging, I guess, the two projects coming together and having that encourage more people come up along the shared use path through our coordinations with the DOT, DCR, and meetings with you, the Board of Selectmen, and the community. We came up with a current design that we had where it will be signed for bikes to use the bike lane on Route 6, so that we're trying to discourage people continuing from the Cape Cod Rail Trail Extension project. And then the 10-foot wide sidewalk is provided in case there are less experienced bicyclists that are going to travel up to PJ's in that area before heading back.
So I guess that's the heart of my concern is two-directional recreational bicycle traffic alongside a one-way bicycle lane, alongside a congested highway with several curb cuts. I think that it's in everyone's interest that the safety for bicyclists and pedestrians is improved on that stretch of road, and I think it's possible. And I think that an increased use of recreational cycling there, especially if it's going two-way, even people walking bikes back and forth through those the really busy curb cuts, is problematic. And I don't see how DOT can really accommodate that in that way safely. should the DCR continue to go down the road that they're going, where they terminate. And I don't want to get into the DCR project because these are two separate projects, but they are clearly related. So my major concern is that there be a sort of encouragement of increased use. There's certainly a lot of incentives for people to carry on from the recreational trail through to, PJ's, Cumberland Farms, and, Main Street is only a certain distance away. So I think there's definitely going to be some accommodation for existing cyclists, but my concern is that there's even a way to accommodate for so much increased use on that roadway. And the other concern I have really is, and I'm just not sure about this, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but the sidewalks that come down Main Street, there's not that much room for actual sidewalk between all those parking lots. So I'm not sure what purpose they serve. You have to cross through all the parking areas, which are long curb cuts between short areas where sidewalk could be. And then they sort of end abruptly into nothing and then a hedge. So without like some town planning as to, where people would go from there, I'm not really sure the point of putting those sidewalks on Main Street where it's already a pretty tight squeeze. And I don't know, I guess I'm not clear on how much it would infringe on those businesses' parking facilities, which are pretty limited right there. So those are my concerns about that area. And that's pretty much all I have. So do we have Justina back on? Yeah, Justina?
She's here.
Okay, do you want to speak, Justina? Maybe her sound's not working.
Yeah, she dropped again.
She dropped again. Okay, with that, I'm going to go with Nancy here. She had her hand up, Nancy Shavetta.
Hi. So I don't have a lot of familiarity with this, but I was very appreciative of Ryan picking up on the Hawes Pond access there, that the water. We do need flow into and out of Hawes Pond. I heard Jill say something about it drying up, but that's because of the current, I think it's a clapper valve that's in there. So I just want to reiterate for the record that we need water to be going in and out of that pond. It's important eel habitat and has been traditionally fished, historically fished for eel, and it's been heavily compromised. So I just want to put that out, that whatever design comes forward, and perhaps that's the type of tie gate that is going in, but just that there is an ability for the eel to travel back up into their natural historical habitat in Hawes Pond. Thank you.
Mike?
Yes, Helen?
Hi. So Jill said something earlier that made my hair stand on end. Jill, you said the Mass Department of Transportation just released new directives this year that, among other things, required separate bike lanes and then something else anywhere where there's high-speed traffic. So that's all of Route 6, yes. Even though yes. So that gets a little strange because the only place we're hearing about it is this stretch that was jump-started as needing attention only because of the rail trail's suggested terminus. Before that, it was just a place where there were breakdown bike lanes on both sides of the road with sharrows. And, it was the normal thing except for a few places in the intersection with Main Street where those bike, lanes that were also breakdown lanes got pinched so that they were almost nothing. And one of the things we wanted in having the intersection improved was to have on both sides of the road, those bike lanes, breakdown lanes, be the same width, and so that people would be able to continue through. That's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is I want to remind the board, and Dan Hort confirmed this a while ago, but we need to hear it again. We can ask for waivers, or Stantec can ask for waivers from the DOT, if they're reasonable waivers. I don't think having a sidewalk, particularly not a sidewalk of that width, that will probably make the Payomet, Idle Times Bike shop, and most of all, PJ's parking lot smaller, because what we don't want is those parking lots being any smaller than they are. There's enough backing and creeping around in them as it is. And to make them smaller, because for whatever reason, there's this very wide expanse of sidewalk, bike lane, all of a sudden just in that one little strip, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem to make it safer. And I feel it's also a use of taxpayer money that really shouldn't be spent on this. The last factoid that some of us may not know is that Nancy Chavetta addressing what happens with Hawes Pond is appropriate, but she is the official in charge of the eel fishery. So thank you for letting me say that, Mike.
Okay. Janet?
So I just want to add that this is all new, and I certainly hear the concerns, but something we really have to think about. Nobody likes the sidewalks, but in this day and age, there are, especially in the summertime, just slow down and look at all the people that are walking and biking, especially our summertime workers who don't have cars, who take the bus or just walk. And I am afraid for them when I see them walking from Route 6 down into the center of town. They have 2 feet of road to walk on. So this is something, we may not like the newness of it, but both bicycles and walking could be our future. We have no idea anymore what our future really is, but the less gas that's used, the fewer vehicles on the road, all would lessen greenhouse gases. They're healthier for you. It's healthier to walk and bike. I mean, there's so many other positive things that could happen from this that we kind of have to, I know everybody's concerned. I'm concerned. I made them, but anyhow, I just think we also have to accommodate the summertime workers, hopefully the year-round workers, that people that need to walk because they can't afford a car. That's really something that we don't offer. Thank you.
I agree with Janet on that. I mean, it's really important that this project accommodates the users of Route 6 and makes it safer for them, because it's clearly an unsafe situation. I biked that route when I was a kid. I've been hit by a car on that. Luckily it was just my handlebars and I was okay, but it's extremely dangerous area, and the way it stands is untenable. I just think maybe accommodating for the increased use is the issue. For recreational increased use on that would actually make it more dangerous for the current users and commuters. That's really all I have to say about it. But I agree with Janet that we really do need to make this a safe situation for people who are pedestrians and bicyclists to get through that section going forward. Still no Justina? I hate to move on without...
No, she's back.
Justina, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I didn't want to...
Sorry about that. I had technical difficulties, but
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
I channeled Ryan and figured them out. I don't want to go on and on because I was obviously not here for the discussion. But I think this process sounds good and promising. I think, Mike, you've got it in good hand. I think we've got a good board and an energized community and a new TA who's going to also have a strong hand. So I think the only thing I really want to add is a shout out to Stantec. In our last March 10th meeting, we did have a heated community discussion. It was an important exchange, but Stantec drove all the way here. Many were young people with families. Anyone under 45 is young to me. And you showed grace under fire, listening to our community, and did the tough job of assimilating our feedback and caring about what our community has to say. And you're back for what I understand is a two-phased process. Emails from our community, and there have been many of them have been collated. So let's do it well, Fleet. Let's do it civilized, and let's do it right and get something really great for future generations. But let's not turn down what's good on the table. In the 80s, we turned down some really good funding for a water system, a dry and dusty topic. And now, as Sarah Peak keeps letting us know, we do have state funding from the DOT to improve the highway. So let's see that as a good thing that it is. And that's what I have to say.
Okay, Helen, do you have one more thing?
Yes, and it's different. I'm responding to what Jill said about the state having a requirement. And again, I think we should ask for a waiver about this. 2 days ago, I was behind a young man who was going up the hill towards the Congregational Church along Main Street, coming from the highway. He was on a bicycle, and it was the part where there is a sidewalk on the right. And he could only safely be well into the lane that I was also driving in, so I drove slowly. But the fact is, on that narrow stretch of road going into town, the center of town, having a sidewalk will make it more unsafe for bicyclists. Because if they hit that curb, it's dangerous. It could send them flopping over into traffic or flopping over onto the hard surface of the asphalt. Or the curb that makes up the sidewalk. And I think it would also either impinge on property owners' property, which, could happen because the town layout is more than just what's paved, but it will make it more narrow for bicyclists if we put a sidewalk there. And I think that for the sake of safety and my own experience walking on all these roads my whole life, having sidewalks is 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It does not always make it safer at all. Maybe in the city a bit, but not here.
Okay.
Thank you. And I hope that gets sort of brought up as a possibility for a waiver. I like change, and I really want to change at that intersection.
Okay, Ryan, if you have something new.
Just a quick question through you to whoever may be able to answer it. What would be the next step here, and when could we, or when and what will we be hearing back from?
So Jill can answer that. We'll have a public hearing, I think, when the 25%, but she can go ahead.
Yep. So we will have a public hearing, and we can also provide initial responses to all the comments that we heard tonight. And I will certainly share some of the design modifications that you guys have shared with me with Mass DOT and have a discussion with them to see if any of these can be incorporated.
Okay. And what's the time frame for that?
I think I know that some of these answers we can push out a response relatively quickly, like within a week. But the coordination ones with Mass DOT, I think it just depends on what their timeline's going to be and who they need to discuss the comments with internally. So that I think is a little bit harder for me to pinpoint for you.
Okay.
But MassDOT is currently reviewing our 25% design submission, so I would assume probably the end of this year or early next year, we're going to be having that 25% design hearing. So at that point, that would be the very latest that you would hear responses for the rest of the comments, but hopefully much sooner than that.
Okay, Justina.
Since the rest of you were spared while my computer spazzed out, I'm going to answer Helen's comment on that sidewalk briefly. We have to share the road. Somebody on a bicycle has sufficient mobility to drive a bicycle. They can also walk it if they don't feel safe. Less mobility might be using the sidewalk. So we have to make these elements move, but sidewalks are important. People with no other option sometimes have to walk on them. I'm real conscious on the highway of the invisible seasonal workers who trudge to work. They're not recreational bike riders. And I think it's important that we open our eyes as a community and see all of us. And sometimes the sidewalks, someone that's not steady on their feet and the gentlemanly or gentlewomanly bike rider can walk the bike for a little bit. That's my view.
Okay.
Question, Mike.
What's that?
She said enough.
One more question.
Okay, Helen.
What is the formal process for requesting a waiver from the DOT for something?
So formally, we have to put a design justification workbook together. So we submit what we are requesting a design exception for, and we have to document what the impacts are if we were to provide that facility. And so typically the waivers are granted if what you're proposing would negatively impact, an environmental feature. So for example, if we were adding a sidewalk and it was causing impacts to the salt marsh, typically like the environmental impacts are a way we can get waivers on not providing something. So for example, for Main Street, because it's designated an urban area, we're required to provide a sidewalk on both sides of the road. But because the salt marsh is on the south side of the road, we had noted that that would cause impacts to the salt marsh area. And so we've submitted a design exception to eliminate the need for, or I guess eliminate us having to provide two sidewalks on Main Street.
Thank you.
Okay, I would just say that sidewalk on the left side of the road would probably make the most sense. Unfortunately, there's Conscom and salt marsh there. Okay, I just have one question from you, Jill. I had talked to you before, and I was wondering if you had heard anything about anything from DCR plan before we move on to that topic. And then, did you hear from the team?
No, Yep. So I did check in with the design team, and there's currently no date for when the project is going to be advertised. And I believe that the full design is complete, but there's no date currently set for when it's going to be advertised.
So they're still planning on terminating on the highway there at Route 6?
As far as I know, yes. And I know that there were, from our March meeting, there were discussions of phasing the project so that only a portion of the trail would be constructed until the Route 6 improvements are made, and then the second half of their project would be completed.
Okay, but no change in their plan for terminating at Route 6 that you know of?
Correct, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much, and I appreciate how much Stantec and the DOT has listened and worked with the town, and I am optimistic that this is going to go in a good direction, and we'll have a safe improvement to our highway area there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, everybody.
And
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you for spending the time and coming.
Nope, no problem.
Okay. Okay, so is the board okay with, and is Courtney okay with, I threw that at Courtney, compiling those comments and sending them on to Stantec in a minutes type form?
I've captured them all, and I'll go back and double check that I did get them all and send them off, if that's okay.
Okay, and is the board okay with that? Do we have to vote on it? Or they're all individual comments, so I don't think we necessarily have to vote.
No.
Okay. Helen, you probably know.
I'm good on that. And the other thing I'd like to note is just to keep the process working as openly as up to speed, keeping us all up to speed. When there is any communication from the DOT or the DCR about this, for us to get it copied to the whole board so we know about it at the time. And I've been trying to do that with the Herring River land exchange process, as you may have noticed. And I think it's a better way to go than it coming in, say, just to the town administrator or to one of us, or just to the town administrator and the DPW, which is what was happening before. So any communication that comes in, and we're going to be getting a 75% plan set and also 100% plan set. There are 4 stages to this process. The first one we're going through, the 25% plan set. And then there's the last one, which is where there's an estimate of how much it costs. And then it goes to the DOT. It's final then. But I would like us all to get everything that comes in on this as it comes in, please. How do we all feel about that? If you don't want to look at it, fine, but some of us do.
Yeah, we should get the information. I think
As it comes,
everybody agrees more information is better, right?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so on to the next agenda item. And that is related. It's a letter from the select board to the DCR, also to Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito. I'll start by just reading the letter out loud, and then I was thinking I could make a motion and then we could discuss. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a draft letter, so we can amend it or whatever. But as written, it is addressed to Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, and DCR Commissioner Jim Montgomery. As members of the Wellfleet Select Board, we represent our residents and taxpayers on all important public issues. We are writing to bring to your attention an ongoing serious public safety concern our town has related to where the DCR has planned to end the Cape Cod Rail Trail bike path. Our town is very supportive of the bike path and appreciates all the hard work and planning that has gone into the project. However, we do not support the current DCR plan, as it has the recreational bike path merging with a proposed DOT bike lane on Route 6 at the busiest and most congested stretch of highway. At issue is the foreseeable increase in use of this dangerous section of road for recreational cyclists to reach nearby attractions. Members of our community have repeatedly voiced their public safety concerns at public meetings hosted by the DCR and in smaller gatherings with DCR staff, but they feel that their valid considerations have been overlooked. On April 23rd, 2019, at our annual town meeting, citizens of Wellfleet voted almost unanimously in favor of Article 44, which requested that the Board of Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, and the Planning Board consider alternate routes for the bike trail extension, and to ask the appropriate agencies to halt any planning or construction of the bike trail extension beyond Old County Road until those deliberations have occurred. Therefore, we formally request that the DCR postpone any further construction and planning of the bike trail extension beyond Old County Road, also known as Old Kings Highway, due to public safety concerns. We ask that in future planning, the DCR work with the town to seek alternative routes and safely continue the Cape Cod Rail Trail through Wellfleet. Thank you for your help to give the town of Wellfleet a role so that we may protect the safety of our citizens and our visitors. Okay, and so I guess I will move that the select board send a letter, as I think Helen has some amendments, is my guess. So I'll move that the select board send a letter as drafted to the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the Governor Baker, and Lieutenant Governor Polito.
Second. Helen, second.
And discussion?
So may I, Mike?
Yes.
Right, great letter, thank you. There were two things. I had a brief exchange with Mike about this before the meeting. There are a few typos, but it's a great letter, and so the typos don't have anything to do with the the content. So there are two things, actually, Mike. I brought up one that I caught. One of them is actually quite important. In the second paragraph down at the bottom, it refers to public meetings hosted by the DCR and in smaller gatherings. It wasn't just with DCR staff. There were a number of those gatherings that had people from the DOT, and I was at them, and the rest of the board wasn't. The town administrator was at one of them. But I think it should read not smaller gatherings with DCR staff, but smaller gatherings with the staff of the DCR and the DOT, because that is actually a fact. So that's one amendment. And the second one is more important. So because I see him because of the Herring River, and of course I don't represent myself as representing the board when I talk with him about it, I've had some exchanges with Brian Karlstrom and also with the park planner, Lauren McKean, about this whole issue. And the park looked at the Cape Cod Commission idea of having the bike trail go down the entire length of the Cape, and they were supportive of it. They were not specifically supportive of this particular way to do it with this terminus and this dangerous intersection and so forth. So that's something that I clarified after our March 10th meeting. And the reason I'm bringing it up is I feel that one of the problems with our process is that all the players haven't met together at the same time. In other words, Mike, before he was on the select board, or maybe just after you got on it, I forget, has met with Peak and Sear and park people, and I've had my own communication with the park that I just told you about. And I think that in the second to last paragraph, where it says, we ask that in future planning, the DCR work with the town, we should add and the National Park Service, because guess what? They keep looking at a way to get recreational bicyclers through Wellfleet. They've done it for years. There have been like 6 different plans. A document was put together by a remarkable researcher, and Brian Carlson has a copy of it. And that when we sit down and talk about this, we should do it with the park. So I would like to add the words with the town and the National Park Service, so that everybody listens to what everybody else says. Because one of the things that Julian Sear even brought up in public at that March 10th meeting was, you know, the park is looking at Ocean View Drive and the way in which it's going to go into the ocean, and maybe we should talk about that. So let's bring them in on it if they want to come, and it sounds to me like they should come. And then if you'll permit me to offer those amendments, and then to correct the few typos, I'm, all for this.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that, those amendments, but Let's see. I think Ryan had his hand up first. He's muted. Okay.
Yep.
Here you go.
All right. So I've already made public comments about that I am not in favor of having the bike trail terminate on Route 6 at this location. I really think it is incredibly irresponsible for it to end at that location because of the traffic issues. If it was even a half mile down the road, it would be a different story. But putting all these additional users in this location is just not responsible. But I'd also like to point out that the meeting that was held in the spring, the Cape Cod Commission's Outer Cape Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan was referenced heavily. That plan, however, concludes that this particular area needs further study to identify the most suitable option. The study area should stretch from the railroad bed Route 6 vicinity in the south to the Gross Hill Road Route 6 vicinity to the north. They had a couple of alternative routes. Some of them have been discussed by the citizenry. And I also think, one of the fundamental charges of government is to promote the safety and well-being of its citizens. I do not consider this proposal to terminate the rail trail on Route 6 as being in the public's best interest. I also believe that fundamentally the role of public officials is to serve the people that we represent. As a community, the town of Wellfleet has repeatedly and overwhelmingly stated that having the Cape Cod Rail Trail terminate at this location is not safe. Even if I was in favor of it terminating at this particular location, I would feel obligated to support what the citizens of Wellfleet are telling us and act in accordance to the public's wishes. Thank you.
Okay, Janet.
So you can hear that most people are really hung up on the rail trail terminating at Route 6. I like the idea of the letter, Mike. I take issue with your word of that it has the recreational bike path merging with a proposed DOT bike lane on Route 6. Merging is really not the right verb there. Merging means that it becomes one. And I want to ask people, if you look at the LeCount Hollow bike path, bike trail, it ends in a parking lot. And you don't see people like blasting through the parking lot to head out onto LeCount Hollow. They stop, they look, eventually they may cross over and go to the extension of the bike trail. But I know that the DCR is planning on that is going to be a big parking lot, and it will be an obvious way for the bike trail to end. So whether we've seen their whole design, I think we have to wait and see that. But I just don't like you using the word merging. And while we've been talking, I've tried to figure out a way to rework that whole sentence. And I just haven't come up with it succinctly yet. But I just take issue with merging.
I understand that. Yeah. The reason I used it is because the projects are merged together, I guess. So.
No, I see it. I get it. But yeah, so I'll edit it, and just like with Helen's edits, I will get them.
Okay, yeah. If you can come up with a word that you think is...
Janet?
Yes.
Janet, I already did it. I changed that verb already.
Okay, what's your verb?
It was...
What's your verb?
It was to invite people onto Route 6 there. In other words, I've got this here. The exact language is, hold on. Damn it, where is it? Which paragraph, Janet?
Second paragraph.
It was the wrong verb because it's not a classic merge situation.
Sure.
The problem is that there's an invitation. I'm looking for it. Oh, here it is. However, we do not support the current DCR plan as it has the recreational bike users invited onto Route 6.
No, that's wrong too. Sorry. Nix it.
Okay, will you trust me to get something good there?
Yeah, because they're not recreational bike user. We just said, the three of us just said that they could be workers. Then it's not necessarily recreational. Workers,
How about bicycle?
we'll work on it tonight.
Bicycle.
Tomorrow
Okay.
morning.
Hold on.
We can't do that. How about bicycle?
Karlstrom? I've got Brian Karlstrom on here. He's got his hand up. So, Brian?
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be speaking with the select board this evening. I'm on the agenda a little bit later. But since Helen did bring us up with regard to your current discussion topic,
Sure.
I would like to offer I would be fully supportive of engaging further discussions. We spent a lot of time and effort in the commission study that was done, and would be happy to be a part of any further discussions as the Seashore representing multimodal interests and recreational pursuits across the entire Cape. Still very firmly in support of that and happy to be part of that.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Helen?
Mike, I have the language for Janet, and we can't draft outside of meetings, but let me just give it to you.
Yes.
However, we do not support the current DCR plan as it has bicyclists coming onto a proposed DOT bike lane on Route 6 at the busiest.
So hold, I'm going to just stop you, Helen. They're not coming onto it. They're not merging. There's going to be a big parking lot that's stopping them. So that's what, so I will say again, I think we all agree to this letter in somewhat, but we need to.
Okay. Hey, I've got it. I've got it. Okay. How about this? Okay. The path isn't merging with the DOT bike lane. The recreational bike path project merges with the proposed DOT bike lane project.
Still not going to sign it.
You wouldn't sign that? Well, that's essentially what's happening, because DOT just said, Stantec just said that they had changed their project to accommodate people coming off the rail trail. So those two projects, in my mind, are merged together. But you are right that the people on the path are not merging, like the trail is not merging with the bike lane. The two projects are merged though. So
why don't we, does this letter have a time frame on it?
Well, I prefer to vote on it tonight if it's just a matter of.
I'm going to want to see it. Helen had a lot of amendments that I did not write down. And if I'm going to sign it, I'm going to see it.
Do you want me to reread it?
So let me just read this sentence again and see if it's okay. However, we do not support the current DCR plan as it has the recreational bike plan project merging with the proposed DOT bike lane project on Route 6 at the busiest and most congested stretch of highway.
Forgive me, Mike. I don't like to. I agree with Janet that it's not just recreational users, it's bicyclists. So I would prefer to use that term. And also, simply merging is usually a verb that's used about a physical thing happening. And if you wanted to say the two projects were being developed in relation to each other, that would be true. They haven't exactly been combined, but they have definitely been developed for years now in relation to each other, which has only very recently come accurately to light. So that's the reason when you have situations like that you want to have a simple sentence about. I feel that as it has bicyclists coming onto Route 6 and with a proposed DOT with an expanded, a widened. The point is, it isn't. There's always a bike lane there. It's that the DOT wants to make it wider, wants to make it more in a way that it's not doing anywhere else in Wellfleet for some strange reason.
To accommodate, they just said to accommodate the increased use. But here, I've got it now.
That would be good.
I have it right here. We do not
Okay.
support the current DCR plan as it has the recreational bike path terminating at a proposed DOT bike lane on Route 6. Okay? That's the actual.
And expanded because there already is a bike lane there. So an expanded.
Terminating at an expanded DOT, a proposed term. Okay.
So I would really like to move that we table this until our next meeting or sooner than that, because it's still, so would you say the bike trail that ends at LeCount Hollow parking lot ends at LeCount Hollow Road?
No.
Right. It really doesn't. So I promise you I will work on it. I'll work on it tonight because I probably won't be able to sleep. So I know what you want to say. I know what Helen wants to say. She should tell me her amendments and we'll get a nice flowing letter going.
Janet, in fact, I would prefer to draft it and then we
I
can
bet
work
you
on it if
would.
you don't. Yes, I would.
I think
And why don't we all submit versions, whatever.
Listen, I think that we can get to this right now. We're talking about one verb. You guys didn't like the word merge. So how about
Really not, Mike. If you really want me to get into it, I don't like that whole sentence.
I mean, we can make a motion with amended. We don't have to have a unanimous vote, even though it would be better to have a unanimous vote with the support of all the select board, obviously.
May we just change bicyclists, recreational bicyclists to bicyclists, because all kinds of people are going to be using that.
It's not even in there, Helen. Listen, let me just read this one more time and let's see if we can bring it to a conclusion. However, we do not support the current DCR plan as it has the recreational bike path terminate at a proposed DOT bike lane on Route 6 at the busiest and most congested stretch of highway. At issue is the foreseeable increase in use of this dangerous section of road for recreational cyclists to reach nearby attractions. I mean, I
would
think
drop recreational
of what is happening, right? There's no way.
Just bicyclists, cyclists.
Cyclists, just cyclists, please.
Cyclists, okay. Cyclists, sorry, I misread that.
And DOT expanded DOT bike lane because there already is a bike lane there.
Sure.
Okay.
And an expanded DOT bike lane. I'm happy
Yes.
with those.
Me too.
Those
And
amendments.
thank you, Brian, for weighing in.
Yes, thank you very much, Brian.
I'd just like to say that this really is just a request. This letter is a request, basically, that the DCR postpone construction and planning beyond Old Kings Highway or Old County Road, which is almost at their destination, just not on the highway, where there has been alternate routes that are viable, proposed, and also in the original Cape Cod Commission outline. We have a National Seashore, a National Park Service who's willing to be involved in the conversations, and there's clearly a need for these conversations to happen before we go to the sort of simplest, cheapest way to get a bike trail down from Wellfleet to Truro, which would be Route 6 through all these curb cuts. So this is just really a request that DCR just come back and work with the town. I feel that the DOT has been very responsive with the town. They've come back. The fact that we didn't even know DCR after that meeting has completed their plan and has not bothered to announce that to the net town. We got that from Jill, who's on the DOT project. It doesn't seem like they've been very responsive to DCR. I just want to point out that we're talking about Department of Conservation and Recreation. not the Department of Transportation here. The DOT has been left with the job of having to deal with bicyclists as they come off of the rail trail if it does terminate on the highway. So Stantec's been left with a difficult job of trying to, as safely as possible, accommodate that increased use. And Jill kind of attested to that tonight, that the reason why that sidewalk is so wide is to accommodate, non-experienced bicyclists to go back and forth if they want to go to PJ's. So I think this letter, I've revised it from the last time, and I feel that it's really just basically asking that, and we're requesting it. The town is just requesting that the DCR in future planning work with the town and as Helen said, with the National Park Service to help seek alternative routes to safely continue. And what we may wind up with in this situation as a result of this letter is maybe a trail that continues safely and through wooded areas, increasing the enjoyment and beauty and safety of our rail trail network all the way potentially to Truro.
Mr. Chair, can somebody try to check in with Justina? She's off.
On here?
No.
I'll give her a call.
Must have her Wi-Fi dropping off.
That's not good. Mike, can I add one fact here that hasn't been put out? The context for this letter, one of the things that really legitimizes this letter is the DCR presented this idea repeatedly at meetings that weren't attended by the public. They weren't advertised. And they weren't attended except by me by chance by the select board. And all of a sudden then, at the March 10th meeting, the commissioner of the DCR presents a fait accompli. He said, the plan is complete. And that process is not legitimate. And that's the main reason I'm signing this letter.
So we do have a motion and a second, but we don't have any votes. So I don't know.
Motion because Janet made another motion, but.
Yeah, she moved to table it, so.
Did anybody say?
Okay, Helen,
No.
this is to send the letter as amended. Helen, aye.
Janet, no.
Ryan, aye.
Wait, Helen, I'm sorry. Helen, did you just make a new motion to send it as amended?
Well, wasn't that the motion?
No, Michael's original motion was to send the letter. You seconded it. We've had the discussion. Janet moved to table the discussion, and we don't have a second.
Okay.
Don't have a second.
Okay. So may I make a new motion, Chair?
Yes.
Mike? I move that we send the letter as drafted and amended at this meeting. Second, please.
Second.
Helen, aye.
Ryan, aye.
No.
Oh, sorry, Janet.
Sorry. Yep.
Ryan, aye.
Michael, aye. And we still don't have Justina.
No, and I can't seem to get a hold of her.
You know what? I'm not so sure she was feeling well, so I think we can move on.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I don't know.
That motion carries 3-1.
So.
Okay. Okay, so on to the next discussion. COVID-19 updates and recommendations. Approval of the 112 budget for September. Maria, you got anything on this?
Nothing specific other than what you see in front of you. You know, this is just the process since we're carrying over from one budget year to the next until we can approve our budget. We just have to provide something to the state each time, and this is what it is. So
yep.
No surprises, no nothing significant happening. It's really a housekeeping exercise to keep the state informed of what we're doing.
Okay, I move that the select board approve the town
1
administrator
second. Or
FY21 1/12 budget plan for the month of September in the amount of $1,929,922 to be submitted to the Department of Revenue per Section 5 of an act to address challenges faced by municipalities and state authorities resulting from COVID-19, Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020.
Second.
All in
Helen, I.
Janet, I.
I have a semi-related question before I vote. Before Dan Hort left, he said that the town would be getting an understanding about what it was taking in terms of room taxes towards the end of July. I don't know. I would just be curious of that. Otherwise, yes, I vote for the motion.
Michael, aye. Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, and now second motion, I move that the select board approve the town manager's FY21 1/12 enterprise fund budget plans for the month of August. Is that right? The month of August?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. September.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. I'm going to pick up where I left off. In the month of September, in the amount of $61,500 for the Marina Enterprise Fund and $28,600 for the Water Enterprise Fund to be submitted to the Department of Revenue per Section 5 of an act to address challenges faced by municipalities and state authorities resulting from COVID-19, Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
I.
Sorry. Helen, I.
Brian, aye.
Michael, aye.
And Janet, I.
Okay. Let's see. Now we are on fees for beach stickers after Labor Day. So I intended last meeting that this be a public hearing, and maybe I wasn't clear or whatever, but I don't think we can change them at this meeting because it was not put forward as a public hearing. But Suzanne, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay.
Background.
Well, would you like me to speak to it?
Yes, please.
Okay, after due consideration, I am recommending that there be no change in the prices from the regular prices for the 3 weeks following Labor Day for a couple of reasons. There's going to be a lot of people who are here who span from the full price to a potential discounted time in different configurations. So I could not assign one price for, let's say, a 2-week sticker or a 1-week sticker that straddled the two prices. And I think because this is brand new and because it's a COVID summer, we should just go forward with the same prices. And as I said in my recommendation, this is an experiment, and most experiments do the best with the fewest moving parts. So I would stand by my recommendation not to adjust the prices.
Okay. Well, I think we actually have no
Chairman.
choice. We're going to make a hearing, and by the time it happens, well, it'll have already been started. So,
Chairman Basto.
Hold on. Let me just finish my sentence, and then I'll call on you, Helen. I just want to point out, I just have concerns about the price, and I hope that people take advantage of our beach stickers, because we will have lifeguards, so they do cost money. So I understand that, and hopefully we have a nice, beautiful September weather pattern. So, okay, Helen, go ahead.
Yeah, let's just take no action, which gets us off the hook as having this had to be a hearing. Okay, if we just take no action.
Yeah, well, we can't do it anyway. So I move that we take no action. We don't have to do that.
Second that.
I'm not even moving it.
Yeah, we don't have to vote on it. Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. On to board and committee appointments and updates. Approval of request for proposal for the 95 Lawrence Road housing project.
Nope, I emailed you and that one's not coming up this week. It was not reviewed by town council in time. It will come up on September 8th, hopefully.
Great. I like that right now. Rights of Public Access Committee, John Reel. Anyone have any questions for John Reel?
Not at all. I move to appoint John Reel to the Rights of Public Access Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Helen, I.
Janet, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye.
Well, good luck, John.
Yeah. Thank you, John. We know you're qualified for this one. All right, on to the next thing. We have local housing partnership, Sharon Rule-Agger.
And I move to appoint Sharon Rule-Agger to the Local Housing Partnership for a one-year term.
Helen, second.
Okay.
Helen, I.
Janet, I.
Brian, I.
Michael, aye. And I'd just like to thank both John Reel and Sharon Rule-Agger for the amount of time and energy they put into our community. And they both, make our town a better place. So thank you, guys.
And I second that. That's true. They work hard for our town. Thanks.
Okay, town business, town meeting expectations. We have moderator Dan Silverman on.
Yes, we do.
Okay, Dan. How you doing?
Very well. I like your hope for good weather in September. I think we're all hoping for that, certainly for September 12th. I just wanted to go over a couple of things with the board in anticipation of our September 12th outdoor town meeting. You've seen, I know, the two-page document was included in the warrant of the expectations. That's primarily written for voters who are coming to town meeting. I have a couple of suggestions that I'd like to run by the board as far as procedural issues or procedural considerations related to how the board handles the motions. I did put a memo together, but my fault. I did not get that to Courtney in time, so I don't think it made it into your package.
They received it.
Oh, they
and
did?
It's on the website. Yeah, and it's on the website.
Okay, good. Again, thank you, Courtney. My apologies for getting that in late. But primarily, I wanted to talk to the board about suggesting that as opposed to common practice in the past, that when it comes time to make the motions, that the board delegate one board member to make all of the motions. I would make a statement ahead of time to make it clear that the fact that one board member was making all the motions was strictly for expediency and in no way reflected the position of individual board members on those motions. And of course, the board members have the same right to speak to the motions as any other voter in town meeting. But I'm just thinking that for the sake of not having to pass the microphones back and forth more than we need to, for not having to, sort of make this round robin of different select board members making different motions, that it would make things, I think, a little smoother if you could delegate one board member to make all of the motions. That's the kind of the primary suggestion that I have for you tonight.
I think that's a good idea, Dan.
I would think that the chair would be the most appropriate person.
That would be my suggestion, but it's up to you, obviously.
Yeah, I would be. Mike, how do you feel about that?
I'll do it. I mean, I don't mind, Helen. I'd be fine doing that.
Good.
That would be. Here's the thing, Danny.
Yes, go ahead, Helen.
What I don't like is, given that this is going to be outdoors, we got the warrant, we all got the warrant in the mail. Those of us who picked up our mail or got it. And rain dates, that's real. I mean, we might get rained out or whatever, hurricane. And there's no indication of how we would find out if it's canceled because of weather. And also what the rain dates would be.
Yes,
So,
because the board voted to establish rain dates.
They're on the website.
The
Yes,
board
they
voted-
are, but how do we learn if it's called up because of weather? Some people might.
We can easily use the one call now or the reverse telephone system to alert everybody. We have the means to send those out to everybody.
Just,
I'm not sure what those are.
Mr. Chair.
It's like when there's an
Yeah.
emergency.
Hold on.
I don't
Ellen,
take.
hold on. Let Dan speak to this.
Sorry.
Okay, a couple of things. I think, in our pre-town meetings, I think we'll try to make it clear to the voters if it's obviously raining, that we will go to the rain date, because the meeting was called for that date, and because that's the way it's posted. I and the town clerk would have to show up and adjourn the meeting to another date. That's the procedure that would have to take place if the meeting can't be held for some reason. So the town clerk and I would show up, recognize the absence of a quorum, and adjourn the meeting, obviously, to the next day if that's the rain date. Courtney's correct. The town has a, for want of a better term, reverse 911 system. The Chief Hurley, I think, is the one who has probably the best access to that, and I'm sure that he would, help us out by putting that message out. There's also ample social media means to know what to get that message out. And we have to trust the voters' common sense in some fashion, that if it's raining, we're not going to be able to have an outdoor meeting. I'm relatively comfortable that we can get that word out. I don't have a better answer for you than that, but I think we have enough ways to get the word out if we have to cancel it.
Well, I would just say that word tends to travel very quickly in Wellfleet. That's one thing I learned growing up here. Is that word of mouth is pretty fast.
Yes.
Okay, so and everyone's clear that the select board will have 3 microphones. Is that what you said, Dan?
I've asked the Mia and I have asked Audio Associates to try to provide as many microphones as they can. We know that we're going to have 4 microphones for the voters in general who make up the voting body. Those are the ones that are going to be wireless mics. They'll be handled by the microphone wranglers. And brought to people who want to speak. In addition, I will have 1 mic. We're going to have a presenter's lectern at the front of the body. That's anybody who needs to get up and speak with a lectern in front of them. That will be available to them. That would also be available, to a member of the FinCom who wants to speak as an individual. I've talked to the chair of the FinCom, and he's going to talk to his board as well. And again, we're going to provide 1 microphone for the chair of the Finance Committee with the ability to access a microphone for the rest of them. But we just we're limited in terms of how many different microphones we can provide. So my thought was that if the select board could share 3 microphones, will provide you with wipes and so forth. The fire department can do that. If we can come up with enough channels to provide you with 5, we'll do it. But it's not at all clear that we can muster that many microphones.
Yeah.
So there may have to some sharing of the microphones with them sanitized by you with wipes in between.
I know as a select board, and between the select board and the moderator, we probably talk the most during town meeting of any individual. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we each had our own microphone, if that's possible in any way.
We're working. We'll work on it.
I understand, it's not easy, but I would certainly feel more comfortable not passing microphones back and forth.
I will pass that along to Audio Associates. Yeah.
Okay.
The other alternative is to talk less.
Yeah. Good luck.
Danny?
Yes, Ellen.
So some of the thing of us talking more will be reduced by just having one of us making motions.
Yes.
But my immune system is going to be lower than it has been in a number of years, right during town meeting for a variety of reasons having to do with taking drugs that I'm taking now. And I do not, I love you all on the select board and would freely share germs in every way possible if appropriate. But I don't want to get sick because I have to go to town meeting and I want to go to town meeting. And I hope that we're going to be sitting far enough apart, but sharing microphones, sure, we'd use hand sanitizer between, passing it back and forth. But hey, guys, we're not going to be sitting next to each other. We're going to be sitting at least 6 feet apart out in the field. We have to be sitting because we have all kinds of papers in front of us. And, is there going to be one of those school chairs with a kind of side armrest that you can put papers on? This is real. It could go on for a couple of hours. It could go fine. But I really don't want to be exposed more than I would be ordinarily because of this. So I'm sort of agreeing with Mike here and saying, yeah, look, one of the special things is, can we each have our own microphone?
I've asked audience.
In other words, people can go up to a podium with a microphone and not touch it. They can just speak into it.
Well, the select board also has that option. And, maybe that, if you're concerned about sharing microphones and we can't provide you each with one, another way to do it is to use the presenter's lectern.
That would be good. That would be good.
Might make more sense. We'll have to see. I'm trying to minimize the amount of movement, the amount of delay in between people speaking, because this is a long warrant. There's 50 articles on this warrant. This was not the pared down warrant that we had talked about doing back in the spring, where we thought we were going to try to just get town meeting done to get the budget done. And I'm not saying that as a criticism, but it's the fact is this is a long warrant, and I anticipate that people aren't going to just rubber stamp the things that are on that. That's not the purpose of town meeting. So if people have a greater comfort level with speaking from a microphone that they don't have to touch, and we can't provide each of the select board members with their own microphone, which again, that's something that I suggested to the vendor, and I've asked him to try to bring as many microphones as he can. So if he has 12 channels, we can put 12 microphones in there. That we should be able to do that. So Mia's aware of that, and I'll remind. We have another task force meeting on Thursday, so I'll bring this up again. I agree. I think it would be best if each of the select board had their own mic, and that's what I asked for originally.
Okay.
Different subject.
Ryan?
The consent agendas. It's the last bullet point of your memo.
Yes.
So there's one community preservation. I forget what the last letter stands for.
Community Preservation Committee.
Yep. There's one article that the select board voted not to recommend unanimously. And that's Article 16. I'd say, what's the process of developing a consent agenda?
Well, there's two ways of doing it. One is that I can ask the voters. I said, "Is there unanimous consent to take articles? I'll just pick some numbers. 7 through 12, and vote on them as a group. And if there's not unanimous consent, we can pull out. I would say if there's any article that somebody wants to discuss separately, pull that one out and don't discuss that one. If there's no objection, we can take them all together. If there's an article that somebody wants to talk to, now obviously it'd be easier if I know ahead of time, and I'll look at the warrant a little more closely. I won't suggest including that, but at that point, then I would ask for a motion to consider articles, 7 through 9 or 7 through 10. and vote on them as a group. And if there's no objection, we can do it that way. If it turns out that there's going to be a lot of wrangling about, I want to talk about this one, and another voter wants to talk about another one, it may not make a lot of sense. But if at the very least, if there's ones on which you've all voted to recommend, I can suggest that we take those as a body. They're still debatable. So even if you take even within the context of a consent agenda, somebody can still ask a question or raise a point about any one of those items in there. It's just that you're basically taking one vote to approve, all the motions made under all of those articles as a body. Is that clear, Ryan?
Yeah. And have you heard back from town council about the debt exclusions?
I did not ask. I think I need to ask. I'm not sure that I have permission to go ask town councils a question because they charge by the hour. So I'll check with Maria and ask Maria if I can direct that question to town council, or if she can. But whether we can do those. And again, that may not make a lot of sense because, there may be people who have something that they want to say about each one of these. They're large enough projects. In general, the consent agendas are for the things that are likely to be non-controversial.
Yeah.
We already have a couple of them set up. The things that we vote on every year that are more kind of a pro forma vote. But we can certainly ask the question and see whether it makes sense to take some more things as consent agendas. That's something we have a couple of weeks to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, I have a quick question. If there is a consent agenda and there's debate on the floor, can someone move to remove something from the consent agenda?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And, again, sometimes it's easier to just, by unanimous consent, agree to consider it separately than to bother to take another vote.
Right.
As long as the voters are clear on what it is that we're doing. There's no confusion. I think I don't think there's normally a problem with that.
Okay, Helen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Danny, can you send us an email when you get that answer? Because I also had the same question that Ryan did in a slightly different version. So ask on our behalf as well as yours, please.
This is in relation to the
council.
This is in relation to the debt exclusion articles, the capital project that are contingent on debt exclusions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Chairman DeVasto, since we're looking at all of this, and Danny brought up asking town council about something in the warrant, I think this is all okay, and I'm going to make a short report about it. But you remember I was concerned about one of the articles that it wasn't worded in a way that would do what it was the water commissioners wanted to do with Article 10. And I just want to check when somebody speaks with town council, ask to be sure if bond council looked at that article and understood what it applied to, because I think it's okay. Danny and I had an exchange about it, and it could be good to go the way it is. But we have to be sure that bond council, not just town council, but bond council took a look at it and understood that there was something that wasn't mentioned in it, although it's covered by reference. I'll get to that later. Yeah, it's good to go, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah.
This is Courtney. I have Justina on speakerphone. She has a couple questions for Dan.
Sure.
Hi, Justina.
Hi, Mike. Sorry my
That's fine.
technical difficulties have been disruptive for the meeting. Danny, I'm going back to the safety of the town meeting, and I know that you and your committee have done an amazing job, and that we're in unprecedented times. But the microphones having to be wiped off did give me pause, because I feel that we keep giving away little pieces of safety, and I'm going to go to an earlier comment I made. I wouldn't go to a party of 100 people in a field with masks on, and I think that with this town meeting in this era of COVID, our first principle should be is our principles maximizing safety. Somebody brought up consent agenda, and I know the town warrant is long, but are there ways we can move it briskly and perhaps time limit town meeting? I'm concerned we start to have slippage and then go, oh, well.
Well, okay. A couple of things to that point. As far as the time limit to the meeting overall, no. I mean, we have to conduct all the business that we have to conduct. I plan to hold speakers to a 3-minute maximum. We've done that in the past. In the past, I've been, somewhat lenient in that. This year, I plan not to be, and that goes for your board as well. So when I tell you to stop talking, please be respectful of the time limit. You're time limited, just like all the other voters. The other thing
would you like to be supplied an array of props?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Perhaps you should be supplied an array of props, a cane, a hook.
Well,
I'm kidding, but I think that we really must. People always want to say one more thing, and etc. But I think it's critical that the town get to have its say, select board have its say. But we need to move in and out quickly.
I agree. I mean, I just trust me. I think, with the exception of Helen, I think I'm a couple of days older than Helen. So among this board, I think I'm the oldest. So if there's concerns about being in the vulnerable group, I'm right there with you. But the other thing that I wanted to suggest is the voters will all have a motions booklet. I don't know if that's been completed yet. I know that Dan had drafted that and put it in draft form before he left, and that's something I think that Courtney is still working on. But what I'm going to suggest is that given that and again, this is something I need to check with town council, but I'm pretty sure that we did this sort of mid-meeting a year and a half ago now at our last town meeting, is that if the voters have the motion in front of them, I think that the select board or whoever else is making the motion can say, I move that the town accept and adopt the motion under Article 23 as printed in the motions booklet, so that we don't have to go through the reading of the whole motion. That would speed things up quite a bit. And I think, again, as long as the voters know what the motion is being made and they have that printed form in front of them, I think that meets the criteria that people are clear on the motion that's being made. Again, bond counsel can be fussy about wording. They can be fussy about whether or not, there's any confusion about what people are voting on. So having the motions printed, I think, goes a long way toward A, speeding up the meeting, and B, making sure that there's no confusion among the voters as to what exactly is being moved. So normally,
see. Yeah. Well, I know you have any number of years of parliamentary expertise to put towards this, so I do feel comforted in that. Are we going to put a strict time limit on town meeting itself?
No, we can't. We can't.
Can we have a target limit?
Well, the target limit would be, I'd like to get done in about 3 to 4 hours. That's, we normally meet at 10 o'clock. I mean, I'm sorry, we normally meet at 7 o'clock, and I usually say, that we're not going to take up any business after 10:30. So that's about 3.5 hours. Again, this is a relatively long warrant. So I'm expecting something along those same lines that, if we start at 10, I'd like to think we could be done by about 1 o'clock. But, that's, let's hope for a not super hot day, and people need to become prepared.
Gotcha. Okay.
The town has to conclude action on all the items in the warrant. You can't just, if we decide we want to indefinitely postpone something, that's another story. But we can't just, the warrant can't just sort of disappear on its own. It is the business of the town. The town has to pass take action on all the articles in front of it, and then the meeting has to be dissolved. So, if that takes...
Sure, of course, we have legal obligations. I'm just concerned, as I know you are, and I know so many of us are, in the medical safety of the town meeting.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I say, I think the watchword for people coming to town meeting is try to be brief. And if you don't really need to say something, don't say it. Perhaps.
Sure. Well, I think we're a good town, and I think we all know what's at stake. Thank you, Danny.
If it gives you any comfort at all, we're modeling this on Orleans town meeting, and Orleans town meeting took place when there was a whole lot less information about what the transmission modalities were, what the risks were. And the last I heard was there was not a single case of transmission or contagion that arose from that town meeting. So that gives me, a little bit of comfort. The fact that we are outdoors, the fact that we are going to be spaced from one another, the fact that we are requiring masks, and we're doing the best we can. We cannot guarantee anyone's safety. I mean, there's no
right. That we have learned a lot. We have learned a lot, and we have learned about those factors.
Okay.
The fact that we're using a successful meeting from the spring as a model, I think goes a long way. It just occurred to me, one other thing is, and if I could maybe ask the board to, just say this, because I know that there are people who watch this either in real time or after the fact, is we do need some more volunteers. I have Becky was very helpful with putting forward some names, and I spoke to these young men and women about a week and a half ago. So that we have a few volunteers who are going to act as microphone wranglers. We do need some more people to help out with just sort of managing the seating, guiding people where to go, and so forth. And I did ask the Chamber of Commerce did put a request out to their members. I'm going to ask Lara Henry to try to remind those. But if the select board could also help publicize that, and maybe we can put something on the website. I'd like to have another dozen or so people just to help out with managing the check-in lines. Helping people find the right place to sit and so forth, because we are going to have designated seating areas for people with mobility issues. There's going to be a separate seating area for anybody that can't wear a mask. We don't really expect that many in that area, but and then non-voters are going to be seated outside the ball field, but within range. Again, so if there are people watching this, would like to get another dozen or so volunteers, people can email me at my town moderator's address, which is you can find on the website. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I'd also just like to point out that currently our community transmission rate is low, and so that gives me a little bit of optimism about being able to pull this off safely. Helen, do you have your hand up, or can we move on to the next thing?
Yeah, briefly, I just wanted to, Justina, I'm with you on all the precautions, and had already said something about us not sharing microphones, the select board, or going to a podium where we didn't have to touch the mic. So thank you for joining me in concerns about that. The other thing is, I appreciate what everybody says about having town meeting go as well as possible. But let's remember, people have to be able to ask questions. Some of the Q&As are the most valuable pieces of information we get. And we don't want to be cutting it short just because it's a weird situation. It is the best information sharing venue that we have about the warrant. Our forum for pre-town meeting is happening before our ballot election. The day after our ballot election, which is really weird. So people are going to be voting on the ballot on questions having to do with money, and they won't necessarily completely understand what they're voting on.
There is a separate forum on the ballot questions that's been scheduled for the 31st. Are you not aware of that?
I am not aware of it because nobody told me about it.
Yes, Courtney has been in contact with the department heads who have that. There are 10 questions on the ballot, and those 10 questions, the department heads who have proposals which are contingent, where the motions are going to be contingent motions. Those department heads have the opportunity, and the voters have the opportunity to learn about that at a forum that was scheduled for the 31st. That has been publicized. Perhaps maybe it needs a little more publicity, but
I did send it to the board, and it is on the town website in 3 different places, or actually probably 5 different places. But that is, Monday the 31st at 5 p.m.
Yes, Mike, I had on my calendar, but it's unclear to me if it was a form, who was holding the meeting?
The town of Wellfleet is holding the pre-town election forum, and the town of Wellfleet, in partnership with the Wellfleet Community Forum, is hosting the pre-town meeting forum, which is on September 9th at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay, Courtney, can you just, is it possible to put that up on the TV channel too? I know a lot of older.
Yeah, let me pull up the page quick.
Oh, I didn't.
There you are, right on the home page there.
Okay, I just meant to, you know how we have those.
I mean, the dates. I can talk to Mia about it. Mia can make a slide to put on the town channel. Yes. That's all.
Just a suggestion.
But here it is, just in case you need to see this as well.
Okay. If we get it, we get it. Okay. Can we move on now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Okay. I'd like to move forward the National Park Service Land Exchange next, because Brian Karlstrom's been patiently waiting.
Yeah. That's fine with me.
So is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Helen, you asked for this on the agenda. Do you want to lead in on this?
Yeah, and Brian, thank you so much for being here. So
You're very welcome.
Thank you always, every time. One of the things the board needs to know is in our homework, there is a map that shows most of the so-called landing strip. And if you remember, what's been going on is I, without any negotiating function, have been meeting with the Land Exchange Group, which is not a municipal group, but you've been getting our notes about it. And, here's a report now, bringing you along as it happens. And Brian, the superintendent, and I, and the park planner, Lauren McKean, who used to be on our Conservation Commission, met. And the point of that little meeting was to hear the park's wish list for land they might want to exchange. So one of the things that came up in that meeting was that the number one choice, and I'll let Brian speak to this in a minute, was the landing strip. And the thing is, it was clear in the meeting, and it's not clear on this picture, that it wasn't all of the landing strip. It was just part of it. And I'll let Brian talk about how much of it might be. And remember, this is to formalize, to be able to formally do in the way in which the park requires a land exchange to take place. Land that is needed in order to raise certain low-lying roads for the Herring River project. So I think can we do tag team? Brian, can you now speak to this if you wish?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Helen. But before I get into that, I do want to take a moment to recognize a couple things going on in the Park Service today. It's our 104th anniversary. It's Founders Day. So back in 1916, the National Park Service began, and we now have over 419 sites. And Cape Cod National Seashore is one of those, First National Seashore, and Wellfleet is one of the 6 towns within it. And we're working to help restore centuries worth of ecological damage within the Herring River watershed. And a part of that effort is to raise a few of the roads within the watershed's area, within the town of Wellfleet, to ensure that as the restoration takes place, those roads are still going to be transversable by citizens and for emergency access. So in order to do that, we've got to go through and perfect a few land exchanges and some parcels related to those roads so that we can raise them up. And in order to do that, we're going to go through a land exchange process. And Helen's asked us to take a look at what we might consider as part of the exchange. And the landing strip is a section of land just south of park headquarters as you head down Marconi Road down towards the beach. It's back in the woods. There's no access to it. It's kind of landlocked in there without any roads or anything servicing it. And it's around 48 acres. It actually extends beyond where the bluff line currently is on out into the ocean. And we would be looking at a portion of that in exchange for the parcels to perfect the road alignments as we go through the exercise for raising them as part of the Herring River Restoration Project. And this is all being done under the memorandum of understanding the town has in place with the seashore. There's a couple other options that we would consider. Specifically, there's a parcel of land, and these parcels of land have been identified by the Cape Cod Commission and as being sensitive resource areas in either the highest or higher categories, so top two categories, and for interest for the seashore to acquire. The second parcel is near the Council on Aging. There's a parcel in that area. And then the parcel over off of the gut that used to be the town landing, where much of the parking lot is actually tumbling into the bay. But that would help to further solidify a little bit of a keyhole piece, if you will, of the boundary of the seashore within clear title. Now, I want to put a whole level of bureaucratic process awareness in front of you at this time. It's within your package. There's an entire checklist that Lauren's provided and shared and that we've been discussing with Helen as a part of this. Most of it is internal with the Park Service, but it's a 6-step process or 6-phase process we've got to go through that includes 29 steps. And we are just at that initiation and agreements phase. It's going to take us a while to work through all this. This is a years-long process before it's all done. So this is just kind of the introduction for you to get an idea of what we're going to be considering and what we're going to be looking at. Maria's had an opportunity to go out with Tim Smith, who's our wetlands restoration ecologist on the seashore last week, to get a better idea of the specific area we're looking at on High Toss Road. A lot of engineering work has been done by the Friends of Herring River on this specific parcel as a component of the entire Herring River restoration effort. There's a lot of details and a lot of study that's gone on behind this. It's got full support. It was just approved to move ahead with DRI by the Cape Cod Commission. So this is one piece in the much larger effort to restore the Herring River. Covered a lot of territory there. If there's any questions or need for further clarification, just let me know. And Lauren and other members of the team I know are on the call as well.
Can I now say something again, Chair DeVasta?
Yeah, and then Ryan has his hand up.
Yeah. So you understand, this is where we identify what's possible. And I would think that we would need to discuss it. The board needs to discuss it carefully because it would be disposing of town land. And our process has to do with finally taking it to town meeting. Our process is not as complicated as the parks. But in other words, I like the two Plan Bs. In other words, the other options besides part of the parking of the landing strip. And the issue with the landing strip, Brian, which you may or may not know about, is there have been different takes on the landing strip. When our two incredible surveyors, arguably the best surveyors in the Commonwealth, retired, they had left us with a lot of work they'd done on that. And in their opinion, the town did have a way to have access. Now, the park and the town are an intergovernmental agency now that are working together on the Herring River project. So we're not adversarial. But that's why I'm very glad to hear that there might be other options, because whatever I think or don't think, I'm part of a 5-part brain, and then I'm part of the whole town brain in town meeting. So it's really good that we have different things we can consider and look at the pros and cons of the things that you might classify according to your more rigorous set of requirements as tradable in this instance. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan?
Through Mr. Chair to Brian, approximately how big of a portion are we discussing?
If we're discussing just the High Toss Road Exchange, it's around 2.5 acres that we're looking at. A couple of different options that are going to be under consideration with the Herring River Executive Council tomorrow, but it's not the entire 48-acre parcel. Far from that. It would be a much smaller subset of it.
And the Bound Brook issues?
There are 4 different areas that need land exchange that if we choose to, we can approach them simultaneously.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
I'd let Brian finish.
Can I answer that?
Helen.
Brian, through you, Mike. Brian, I talked with Lauren about that, I think today or yesterday at the land exchange meeting. And what I pinned down with Christine, who is the kind of person who's into the details, there are sections along High Toss Road that the park would be trading. And then there are sections along 3 other sections that need to be raised, of low-lying roads that need to be raised. And they didn't have an exact number of square feet or acres yet. It was only ballpark, so that has to be pinned down. We all agreed at the end of the meeting yesterday that it had to be pinned down. The other thing that I want to put out here to the board, which I didn't say and Brian hasn't said, is in our homework, there is one page that is about an exchange that's just going to happen between a private property owner and the park, and that has been confirmed. It's the Miller-Frederickson map, and the park and the Miller-Fredericksons are going to work that out between themselves. Brian, that's what I was told. Is that just confirmed?
That's correct. Yes.
So just disregard that. I mean, know about it, but we don't have to worry about that.
So to answer your question, through Michael.
Yep. Go ahead, Brian.
Brian. Yeah. The exact amount of acreage is not known, but it's far less than the entire area of the landing strip. We've got to go through several of the steps within the process to determine through additional surveyor work exactly the amount of acreage, but we know it's, depending upon what the decision is with the Herring River Executive Committee tomorrow, it's in the neighborhood of 2 to 4 acres. It's not going to be a huge 2 dozen acres in this case.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
I have a question.
I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan. Finish up.
So I thought we were discussing a land exchange related to improvements that need to be made on Bound Brook Road and the other roads adjoining the Herring River. It doesn't say in here that is related to High Toss. I'm wondering why we have to do a land exchange for High Toss if that road was pre-existing. I know that we had to do a taking for it, but why can't we just give it right back to the park after we do the taking?
Huh?
I'm confused by that.
Let me explain.
You can't take it from the park.
You can't take it from the park there, but
It's federal land, so
there's part of High Toss Road that Ryan's referring to that has no clear title. The park has said that there's part of title. We had an executive session where we went through an eminent domain process for part of, I think it's the upper part of High Toss Road by Pole Dyke Road, if I'm not mistaken, that was, according to our title examiner, not owned by the park or the town, had no clear title. And the town went through a taking of that area for this project. So I don't know if that's something you knew about or...
I was aware of that. The section of High Toss we're talking about is between Hopkins Drive and Way 672 or Rainbow Lane. Mm-hmm. So I think that's further to the southwest, if you will, from the area I think you may be thinking of, Ryan.
Yeah, but why are we doing a land exchange related to High Toss Road?
The High Toss Road needs to be modified in order to accommodate the Herring River restoration effort. That's the reason for doing the exchange, because where the current tread of the road is does not coincide with where the town's right-of-way is. So there's a number of small parcels in order to raise the road that are going to be affected by the action. And I think Helen's got some clarifying information she can provide as well.
Just to clarify that, Brian, is it because a National Seashore can't do the road improvements without the town? Or do the raising?
Can I answer that, please?
Please, Helen.
Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah. So, guys, when you raise roads, there's kind of a buttress of earth that's an embankment that holds the road up, right? We know this. And it isn't just on High Toss. There are two issues here. There are a number of low-lying roads that need to be raised. And some of them are like on the stretch to Bound Brook, some on Pole Dyke. There are three stretches on the paved part, and then there's a stretch on High Toss, okay?
Yep.
That needs to be raised. That's one issue. In order to raise those roads, in some cases, those buttresses, the built-up earth embankments that will hold up raised roads up, go onto park property. And the poor park can't just say, yeah, we're all in this together. It's good to go. Let's do it. They have to do this onerous tidbit land swap process. And the details are all pinned down. There's been an enormous amount of work on it. And, you know, we don't have an exact square feet of exactly how many acres or square feet it is, but what Brian just said about the High Toss stretch is close to what I've been hearing. And that is going to have to be pinned down. That's one issue. There is another issue, which is what the warrant article is about. In order to get funding and to do some parts of this process, to raise the roads, for example, and maybe some other things that I'm not looking at my notes right now. But in order to get funding, the ownership of that road, which is in some sections a bit foggy, right, has to be ascertained. It has to be confirmed. And as we know, if you do a friendly taking, that clarifies the title. It confirms the title. And that's why that's happening. It's just housekeeping.
Okay.
The other issue about the land exchange is related to it simply because and only because there's a section of High Toss Road that you've got to make higher so people can use it, you know, when that's all flooded. So, Brian, does that jive with what you know?
Exactly, Helen.
All right.
So two separate
From a personal standpoint, I would like to also see what the other potential options are. I don't like being presented with a single option.
There are some other.
In terms of exchange,
Yes.
yeah, there is a.
Our packet only has information.
Okay.
Let Brian finish speaking, please. Let's do this in an orderly fashion. Go ahead, Brian.
You've got the one in your packet is the commonly referred to landing strip. There are two other parcels that we would be interested in discussing further. There's a parcel to the right near the Council on Aging. And then at the gut, the old town landing site are two others that we would be interested in further discussing. So there are three options that we could be looking at, and these are being presented to you as things that for further discussion.
Yeah, we're not voting on this right now.
Exactly.
Okay, I have Carol Ridley's had her hand up for a while.
I also do have Justina here.
Oh,
You're ready.
Okay, and I have Janet here. I'll call on. I think I'll call on Carol because she's had her hand up for a long time, and then Janet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carol Ridley, coordinator for the Herring River Restoration Project. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of additional information related to High Toss Road, which I think was correctly pointed out as one of kind of three areas where road elevations are requiring changes to the slope of the road embankment, and this is resulting in the small areas of encroachment along these roadways. That's the subject of this land transfer. The issue with High Toss Road, so that is a topic that the Executive Council has been talking about in recent meetings, because there are a couple of design considerations that needed to be sort of resolved in order for us to be able to continue with development of permit applications and finalizing plans to accompany permit applications. And so those design issues were brought to the Executive Council for conversation, and they will have some bearing on the amount of land involved in this transfer process. And just very briefly, one of the design considerations was the amount of High Toss Road from roughly, Way 672, or where the causeway will be removed, to what length of roadway along High Toss would be elevated, to ensure continuous access for those people who rely on that road for emergency access, for example. And a decision was made by the Executive Council to move forward with a partial elevation to just past Hopkins Drive, which has a number of benefits. As I said, it doesn't alter anyone's emergency access, and really will have no change in use of High Toss Road virtually during phase one, but will reduce environmental impacts. It will reduce the amount of encroachment due to the embankments that I just described onto seashore property, and it will reduce project cost. So three benefits of that design modification. Another design modification that will be discussed at a meeting tomorrow is the realignment of the travelway, as was just described by Helen. The existing travelway is outside of the right-of-way, and one option is to elevate that portion of High Toss within the existing travelway, or to relocate the travelway. And that has, those two options have different implications for, resource impacts and other issues with respect to some of the private properties nearby, encroachment on seashore land. So those are the two design pieces that are under discussion with the Executive Council. And I just wanted you to be aware of that discussion and where we are with that and how that fits into this broader broader discussion about the land transfers. Thank you.
Okay. Does Janet still have her hand up? Okay. Janet, do you still want to speak? I think Lauren McKean has her hand up too. She might provide some information. So I'll call on Lauren because I don't see Janet's hand. Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm just backing up the rest of the team, saying we're talking about probably about 5 different road segments here. It's Pole Dyke Road, Boundbrook Island Road, east and west sections, Old County Road, and High Toss Road. So all of those are aggregating into this land exchange. And right now, we know that we're talking about 40 parcels, just tiny pieces of 40 parcels. So it's a complicated little exercise of trying to figure out what that entire acreage is that our team, that Helen is part of, is trying to figure out. But we are getting to the point where those final decisions are being made by the Executive Council, and so that we should have a final list, and I would say within the next month.
Okay, and then we'll take tab to the board. I imagine that's something that we discuss in executive session because it has to do with land disposition. Well, we're technically negotiating, right? So I'm sure we could have it about. Go ahead, Helen. Go ahead.
Mike, two things. I just want to be sure both.
Oh, Justine, sorry.
Both Carol and Brian said something which might be taken the wrong way. So sections of High Toss Road and the other roads that Lauren referred to, it's only bits of them that get raised. It's not all of Pole Dyke. It's not all of the stretch of High Toss Road that goes from Hopkins to Pole Dyke Road.
Sure.
It's only parts. And there are maps of this, and we could get a look at them. I've looked at them a lot. And so the other thing is that when the Executive Council discusses what option to go with tomorrow about whether we should use the existing roadway or, change where the actual used road is, laid out road is different than actual road. Not all of it is outside of the laid out way that exists. Only some of it sort of veers into parkland. So it isn't like we would be needing to exchange a whole lot more land with the park. It would be very minimal. So that's important to be absolutely clear about. Thank you.
Helen, I was just referring to once there's something on the table that the park wants to, that the parameters are known to exchange with the town, then we will be meeting to determine, which parcels we want to trade to exchange for, right? So there's a few options. So that was what I was referring to in meeting in executive session. We'll figure that out as it comes. We don't need to talk about that right now.
Okay, because I'm not sure it qualifies for that because we're not adversarial here. We're like a family, an intergovernmental group who's deciding what to do together. Let's not do it now.
Yeah, we don't need to. I'm sorry, Justina, I can't see your hand, but I know you wanted to speak. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I thank everyone for tolerating my technical difficulties. I must say that gradually the nature of what we were talking about became clearer to me. And also, Brian Karlstrom, thank you very much for your presence. It's a pleasure to meet you over the phone, and I enjoyed your highlights of the long history of the seashore, the National Park Service. I think for me, given that this is about to enter into a rather serious and wonderful process of negotiation, if we could have a little bit more formality and documentation of process, such as delineating who the executive council are and who their names are, who are part of the decision. It's nice to hear that Helen has a town brain, and she's also got a 5-part brain, which I guess I deciphered as part of the executive council.
No.
But I think I would like the names of the players and a little bit more of a sense of formality of the meetings that were attended that led to these decisions. Obviously not each meeting or anything like that, but these are serious decisions, and the town, they'll live on after we do. So could we please have some sense of the players written down with their names and titles and maybe how we got here? And I think as I listened, I understood that this was a decision, these decisions resulted in deliberation from the executive council, not on a one-on-one from Brian and Helen. So I would prefer documentation that indicated that for our next meeting as we move towards the negotiation phase. Thank you.
I believe those executive council meetings have minutes, correct? They're public.
Correct.
So
yes.
I'd like an org chart because I get lost in minutes. Just an org chart. Who are the players? And, how did these decisions get come to? Like maybe the top 5 meetings or really anything.
Yeah, we have minutes from those. Carol moderates them as the facilitator.
Too, but just maybe a list of names and titles on one piece of paper would be helpful.
We can provide that, and that's part of the MOU with the town as well.
Because my sense in the beginning of the meeting, it was an informal chat between Helen and Brian, who was serving as some sort of informal liaison between the two. And I think there was probably more formality legally than that. And as we make these important decisions, legally, I think we're probably bound to more formality. So I think our language and documentation needs to reflect that.
Mike, may I address this, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Helen, please.
Yeah, thank you. So Justina, just to do a recap, and you were there, but I forget things. You remember a few meetings back, I informed the board about this group that was not a municipal group, that was not going to meet in open meeting for a variety of reasons. But I said, full reports are going to be made to you by me with documentation as we go forward. And more than that, for example, we're having this agenda item, which I really wanted us to have together to bring us along in the process as it was unfolding. But you may not remember it with all the papers we get. You got there are no formal minutes for this, but Lauren McKean takes notes that she turns into minutes, which are not required. And I believe on that document, which we got in our homework packet for one meeting after the first meeting of this land exchange group, all the people in it were listed. But that said, this is very different than the executive council, which is fully operating under the open meeting law. I feel that the land exchange group committee has to have full transparency. That's what, again, this agenda item is about. And maybe Courtney could resend to you that set of notes from Lauren McKean, who's on it. And if the list of the people on it who participate in it aren't on it, yes, we should be supplied with that, all of us, right away. I think it's on there somewhere. Okay, so I agree with you. We should know everything about this as we proceed with it.
I just don't know who the decision makers are. And if I need to go back and pull the old pieces of paper that were supplied, I can do so, or maybe they could be included in the next packet by someone smarter than me that could pull them. But I'm a little lost in the weeds here about who has legal authority here and who met, just in a top line sense.
Janet, Justina.
Hold on.
I can answer that.
Maybe
Really,
I'm the dunce of the board,
Helen,
So maybe it's late, but it just does seem
everybody stop talking over each other, please. Please stop talking over each other. It's impossible to hear in the meeting.
May I answer your question?
Yes, Helen, please answer the question. Let's
Justina,
keep it brief.
Decisions are only made by the executive council, and in some cases have to be passed under the nose of town meeting or the board. But it's the executive council. This land exchange group makes no decisions. Zero. They just research, get the data together. There are no decisions made by that. Brian, can you confirm that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's a nice, clear answer, and it's absolutely rock solid. Thank you.
So everything comes through the executive council, and then any decisions that are made by the town of Wellfleet will be made through the select board and by the town at town meeting.
Correct.
So that's essentially the process. Carol Ridley, I've got your hand up here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify for Ms. Carlson and anyone who's listening who might be confused about the origin of the Executive Council. It was formed by MOU 4 between the town and the seashore, and there are 5 members, Helen Miranda Wilson, Janet Reinhardt, Rhea Broadbent, Brian Karlstrom, and Jeff Sanders, also from the seashore. So three from the town and 2 from the seashore. We certainly do have minutes we can provide, and I can pull all this information together in a concise format for your next meeting. We also did record the last meeting where these High Toss Road discussions were held. So that's also available if you wish to listen to that recording. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Carol. Okay. So we don't have any action item on this. We're just getting an update. So I think unless there's any more questions, I think we can move on to the next topic.
Michael,
Sure.
if I may, I'd like to just offer to the select board that if at their discretion, I would be willing to provide quarterly or intermittent updates on all seashore operations. If you would like that as part of the select board meetings, happy to do that for you. I think that could be helpful for everybody. So just let me know and I'll be happy to provide that.
I think that'd be great, Brian. And actually one thing I was hoping to speak with you about was the potential for maybe having you come up and give updates about what's going on in the park every once in a while at your
absolutely happy to
select board meetings, just to sort of connect with the population of Wellfleet and maybe bridge some of the gap between the town and the National Park Service.
Happy
as a
very willing to do that, and just let me know when.
Okay, all right, thanks. Appreciate you coming and all the work that's going into this. It's definitely not a small project, and it's definitely got its complicated aspects.
Yeah, the entire Herring River restoration effort's the largest wetland restoration taking place in New England right now. It's pretty impressive.
Well, it's about 100 years overdue.
This is true.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. All right. Next up, we got back here, we're discussion of the process for mail-in voting and the importance of completing the 2020 census. Janet brought this up. Apparently, we have the lowest response rate in our county for the 2020 census. So that's going to cost us in a lot of different ways if we don't have maximize our participation. So go ahead, Janet. You on there?
Is muted.
There we go. Good. So Jennifer Conjo, our town clerk, was going to present this, and she is exhausted because she's working 6 days a week, many hours each day from getting this all organized. So because it's getting late, I'm going to encapsulate what she has said. So as far as the census goes, as of August 4th or 5th, Wellfleet is at a 30.1% response rate. So that's how low we are, although that is not unusual for a small town. But still, if we want to get counted, please go to the website. I want to also say that many people are suspicious or wary of the census. The census is important because federal funds, grants, and support to state and counties communities are based on population totals and breakdowns based by sex, age, race, and other factors. The census gets our fair share of federal funds to spend on schools, hospitals, roads, and other vital programs. It is also vital in deciding how many representatives we get in Congress. So that's the main reason to partake in the census. You can do it online. I think everybody, you can go probably onto our website. I want to check this with Jennifer to link in, but it really is, I'm looking for it. I don't know. It's just U.S. Census 2020, and you can fill it out. You can request a phone call. You can call in. It's really about as easy. There's maybe like 5 to 10 questions, but very important. The president changed the deadline for the census from October 30th to September 31st. So we have until then to fill in the census. And as far as voting goes, mail-in voting, I'm going to read this way. The deadline to apply for a vote by mail ballot for the September primary is tomorrow. That just means you can still vote physically, but if you wanted to mail in your ballot, you have till tomorrow to get that. Early voting in person is in progress this week, 8 a.m. to noon, and then 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. The town clerk is asking everyone to come in the front door and to please wear a mask and socially distance. The back door is open for handicap accessibility. And please know that other departments are not open to the public. Ballots for the November presidential election will go out soon as she receives them from the state, anticipating that around October 9th. There will be 2 weeks, including weekends, of in-person early voting for the presidential election, October 17th through the 30th. The weekend hours will be 10 a.m. to noon. Weekday hours will be regular office hours. And again, a lot of this I'm hoping is going to be up on our website.
It is on there.
What it is, yeah, I thought so too. But if you're having problems, so if you have a mail-in ballot and you're concerned about the post office or anything else, it's just convenient. There is the back door at Town Hall. There's a gray box that you can put your ballot in. There's been some confusion. People have been putting it in the open outgoing mail slot, and that is not safe. That's accessible to anybody who wants to stick their hand into it. So you have to look at the box head on, and there's a lever. But Jennifer has also put a big sign up. So if there's problems, call her or email her. Again, it's very important that we do this. What am I leaving out, Courtney? Anything?
I think you really covered all of it. If there's any other questions about mail-in voting or the census, you can contact the town clerk at 508-349-0301 or town clerk, that's one word, at wellfleet-ma.gov.
Good, thank you. And also there's a link on our website. So that's it. It's getting late. That's all I have to do that, but please vote and fill out your census.
Hey, thank you, Janet. Appreciate that. Good, thorough information. Next up, we have schedule and installation of a memorial bench for Arthur Medici at Newcomb Hollow Beach. And hold on.
Is Heather on?
Yeah,
Heather.
Yep, she is. I'm trying to unmute her. There you go.
Yeah, so nothing worse than trying to do a presentation after everybody went to lunch and had a bagel and had a cigarette, and now we're here. So I'll be really quick. So as we all know, just about 12 months ago, we all had a conversation. Courtney did an amazing job, better than me, bringing forward all the conversation that we had. There was a lot of community support for doing a community bench. We raised $1,953,000, nearly $2,000, so $1,953 raised. We bought a bench that's very similar to all the other benches that we have. It was $1,245. We put a plaque, which I have a copy here. I can't really hold it up, but it talked about, Arthur and his life and where he lived and where he died. It was $360. And we are ready to bring it forward. Suzanne advised that we need to come in front of the board and just say, we're ready to go. We'd like to bring it forward. So I'll kind of open it up to the board. It was already approved to go forward. It was already approved to have a nuisance, which we have. But I am worried about what the DPW and others might say about the location. So I'm very open to that conversation.
Okay, I'm just going to make the motion and then we can discuss. I move to permit the scheduling for the installation of a memorial bench for Arthur Medici at Newcomb Hollow Beach as authorized at the August 27th, 2019 meeting of the Select Board by the Cape Cod Ocean Community with the assistance of the Wellfleet Department of Public Works and the Beach Department.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Do we have any?
Yeah, I have a question, which is, so the DPW will decide where it can go, right? Because they will also be aware of perhaps needing to move it as the parking lot, gets slowly disappears. Yeah, that's right. Heather just made a gesture that describes the ocean, taking back what it owns, I'm tired. Okay, so the question is, will the DPW do that? Let's give them the authority to do that. And is that okay with the donators? Through you to the Heather.
Yep, Heather.
Heather, yes?
Yeah, no, that is correct. We know the risk. We know the risk of vandalism. We know the risk of what happens at Newcomb's. We know all that, and we would just love to move forward. And if we need to make a change, we'll bring it forth and have a conversation. But
so in the motion, it says with the assistance of the Wellfleet Department of Public Works and the Wellfleet Beach Department. So I think it's covered in there that DPW and Beach will be involved in that. Is that enough for you, Helen?
Well, I was asking about something else, but that part, yes. But if the DPW, if you want to put it in a spot and the DPW says, no, there's a reason not to put it there, I was just asking about their wishes and jurisdiction to be respected, because they wouldn't do it arbitrarily. They wouldn't just do it to be mean. They'd listen to them and say, okay, I get it. We can't put it there. Okay. Where can we put it?
Let's amend the motion.
Yeah.
I move to permit the scheduling for the installation of a memorial bench for Arthur Medici at Newcomb Hollow Beach as authorized at the August 27th, 2019 meeting of the Select Board by the Cape Cod Ocean Community with the approval of the Wellfleet Department of Public Works and the Beach Department.
Second.
Helen, oh, sorry, Janet. Helen, can we vote?
Yeah.
Chair?
Yeah.
Helen, aye.
Janet, aye.
Ryan, I. Is Justina still here?
She is on by phone, but I don't know if she can unmute herself. Let me see.
Michael, aye.
I think she's having trouble unmuting. There you go, Justina.
Justina, aye.
All right.
Hey.
And I heard you guys laughing at me.
No, it wasn't just.
We're laughing
at you.
Especially you,
Okay.
Michael.
I was not laughing at you.
There's something else going on in one of the screens.
Well, there's a naked man in the back of your screen. You want
Okay, on to the
My
next.
family's laughing at me being muted.
Okay. Response to the letter from the Cemetery Commission dated August 10th, 2020.
Wait, am I done? I'm good? Approved?
Yes, all
Good.
said, Helen.
5-0. You're approved. You just got to talk to DPW at the beach.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night.
So, the response to letter from the Cemetery Commission. Ryan has a draft letter here. I have one issue with it. And I'm just going to say it right now. Where it says the repairs need to be done in a way that respects the deceased and their families. I just sort of object to the wording there. I feel like it could be, I know it wasn't intended this way, but it could be interpreted as that it was a disrespect, that it was the negative, right? So that it was disrespectful of the deceased and their families when the intent to restore these was to be done in a respectful manner. I would prefer to strike that sentence.
Okay.
I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but I don't think I can sign it with that on there because I just unless it's reworded in some way. But I'd prefer to just strike that sentence and then I'm okay with the rest of it.
Mike, through you to Ryan. Ryan, didn't you have some very good points about how your concerns were that the restoration standards weren't up to accepted practices? Some more equally valid, but perhaps more neutral language?
Yes, I tried to. I'm trying not to say that. I don't know. I was trying not to get too specific, and just be generalized.
I see.
I didn't think it was fair to try to be really specific, but I did include images of some of the issues to try to clarify what they were.
Well, it's your letter, and I want to respect that, but I think accepted restoration standards might be less controversial than what Mike DeVasso said about respecting the dead, which is so subjective.
Yeah, and I actually had one question. There was a sentence I removed, and that's if the select board has a policy on building projects. I don't know if this is considered a building project or not, but if it is, it requires an RFP.
Good point.
I don't think this is our project. It's the Community Preservation Act, and they have kind of the say over this and watch over it.
Yeah.
Mike, through you to Janet, would it be a building project to them? Does it need an RFP?
So I'll explain the Community Preservation Act and how it works in the committee. There's a very good committee with representatives from Planning Board, Conscom, Historical Commission.
Oh, that's right. It's CDP. Sorry.
CDP, yeah. And they do, whoever is requesting the money does give them a budget, a detailed budget, and they approve that. And it is their money. It is the Community Preservation Act's money, and they oversee it. So
Of course.
Really all we can do is just wish that in the next round that we were disappointed with this round of, I'll say Ryan and I were disappointed because Ryan brought it up, but it seems like it could be a better job for the next round of money that we would approve.
So it's a town committee that's spending it, which is why it might qualify.
We can look into that, Ryan, if you'd like to see the parameters in regard to having the RFP for building projects and what technically is a building project.
Okay, that sounds fine.
I'm just not quite sure that restoration of headstones is considered building, but we can look into it.
Yeah, I'm sure. What is the total amount? It was around $10,000 or something. It may not be enough money to do the repairs in a way that is
yes,
is the accepted practice, you know, and that may be the case. However, I think, you know, as a town, if we're going to spend Community Preservation Act funding, personally, I'd like to spend the amount that it takes to do it right. And so that's how I feel about it. But I really am not looking at this like I don't want to spend the CPA funding to restore the gravestones. But I do think that it's important that they're done up to accepted standards, and it doesn't appear to be that way in the images. So that's the only thing that I would like to bring up to the commissioners, and I'd be happy, you know, to vote for this funding just on verbal commitment that, you know, the workmanship will be carried out.
Do we have a motion in front of us with the letter?
We do have a motion for the letter.
Excuse me, I've had my hand up.
Helen, go ahead.
I've had my hand up.
Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, so there are two separate issues here. The procurement laws apply, whether or not they're in a select board policy. Ryan was referring to a select board policy that says, it's sort of one of these often risky echoes of something that we get from the state or the feds, okay? It's an echo of procurement law saying if it's a building project, it has to go, and then there's a reference to certain procurement procedures. Get out of there for a variety of reasons. But anyway, I read it, and it doesn't, in my opinion, apply to this, Ryan. However, I do agree with the letter that we're being very nice to answer this, that we didn't want to put it on the warrant. It's our prerogative, and we discussed it at the meeting when we decided not to put it on the warrant. So adding a letter to that is a courtesy. I would take out, having thought about it some more today, I would take out the respect thing. I agree with Justina, and through you, Mike. Justina, can you communicate right now, technically? Justina?
Can I do what?
Yes, you can communicate. Because you
can I walk
remember
and chew gum at the same time? Yes.
No, can we hear you and can you hear us? So anyway,
yes,
what was that?
I hear you.
Good. What was the phrase you used instead of, you know, the respect thing? It's what Mike just said.
What did I say? More in line with generally approved standards in the restoration field or something like that.
Yes, because that's the reason. I thought, how did they let this happen? And there were particularly two of those images. And, you know,
they look like they flunked restoration school.
There you go. And I understand they're doing something and they're trying, and it's hard to do that stuff. But it's respectful that they were doing it at all. But frankly, the one that looks like it was put together, glued badly together, was just, I shuddered. So I'd like to send a letter. I'd like to have that one change of phrase. And that's all I wanted to say. And
I wasn't sure Ryan was comfortable with that phrase.
I'm with that. Could somebody, it takes me a while to write correctly. So somebody propose a proper sentence. That would be helpful.
Do you have a digital copy? Oh, no, it's in the packet, right?
Yeah, I have a copy as well.
Okay, listen.
I can take what's in the
Courtney's going to put this out. Courtney's going to put this. Right, Courtney?
I'd like to hear what the chair has to say.
Yeah, I will do it right now. Okay, so, oops, I'm reading the wrong letter here. Sorry. Where's Ryan's? Right underneath that, Commissioner. Okay. I would like to remove the words, the repairs need to be done in a way that respects the deceased and their families. And I would like to add the words to amend this to be the repairs. We would appreciate that the repairs be done in a way that conforms to the
accepted
standards of
the field of
restoration.
There you go.
Monument restoration.
Okay,
monument restoration.
You got that, Courtney?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Other than that, I'm okay with the letter. And I'm fine with sending it like that. If we could have maybe I don't know if we should send the images or not. I mean, they've probably seen it and they just need to, understand why we voted the way we voted. But at town meeting, I'd like to hear from the cemetery commissioners. I'd be interested. I would potentially recommend based on, what they have to say. So,
Mike, it's not on the warrant.
No, it is. It's still on the warrant.
You voted to insert it, but not to recommend.
Yeah.
I thought we dropped it.
No,
nope.
It's on the warrant.
Oh, geez. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I made two motions because we had it on the warrant originally. We reconsidered. We decided not to recommend it after the photographs, but it's still on the warrant. So the money can still be released to them. Right now, we've not recommended. They'll probably speak to it at town meeting. And then the town can decide.
Yeah, good.
So that's all. So we need a motion to send as amended.
Are we including the images or not?
I think you should.
Yeah, can we just include them on separate pages, please, so it's not on the same page as the letter?
Yep.
Okay. Helen, you want to make a motion? You look like you're going to fall asleep.
Well, I so move that we send the letter as amended tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Janet, aye.
Helen, aye.
Ryan, aye.
Christina, aye.
Michael, aye. Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Send the letter as amended. Okay, on to the next thing here. It is select board reports. Anybody got a report?
Actually,
Yeah, I got.
oh, wait.
Sorry, Janet, you first.
Janet, you go ahead.
We have an approval of request for proposals for 95 Lawrence. Did we do that?
It's on the next agenda. It was not reviewed by town council in time.
Oh, okay. Great.
Okay, Helen, report.
Okay, and what? I have cut the report on this in half because it's
Okay,
getting
good.
so late. I went to the Association of the People Around the Ponds. It's called Guapaka. And there was a lot of stuff that applies to Wellfleet. This summer, the town, working with Hillary, at Hillary's behest and direction, under her direction, the APCC tested for cyanobacteria and the temperature of Higgins, Gull, Long, Great, Duck, and Dyer Pond, not Williams. They're testing nothing in Truro. The park, unfortunately, because of funding, has stopped testing for what they tested for since the 80s, for the last couple of years. And that's a crying shame, because that's a data set that is incredibly valuable for us. They test, the turbidity and some other things, acidity, some other things. And of course, the health department tests for fecal coliform and another kind of coliform. So I'm cutting that in half, except to also say that the sluice, and this is a pond access, waterway access issue. The sluice, as of this past Sunday morning, there were 25 people there. It is insanely overused. There was no social distancing. There's no safety access. It's a nightmare. So we need to address that. There's some other places in town, whether or not the Pond Access Committee is able to get a quorum or not, we need to address this. And I would like to request that we have the beach administrator and the park, somebody from the park, come and meet with us about this, because it's really gotten worse. So that was one thing. The second thing is, I had a concern with regard for a warrant article that I brought up at the last meeting, the one about the municipal water system. And I was concerned because the water commissioners, I thought, might have not put language in it that would get them what they wanted legally. And I talked it over with the town moderator, and we went over the language, right? Whatever I think about this, and I have pros and cons about it, this was another issue. It was, is this going to do what they needed to do if it passes in terms of appropriations? And he felt that the word infrastructure, which could be interpreted as applying to the rather long length of pipe that needs to be given a wider diameter, which is essential for proposing what they want to do. You can't have what they have put in the article as wanting to do, the longer pipe along the highway and Briar Lane, without making that pipe that's already in the ground have a wider diameter. And Danny felt that it was within the scope. We went over it carefully. It wasn't a no-brainer. So that was the second thing I wanted to report. And then I would like as a, that's future concerns, so I can wait for that. You want me to just go into future concerns, or should we do town administrator's report?
Town administrator's report and then future concerns. Maria, you got anything to report?
My report sort of speaks for itself. Lots of meetings, still, spending time catching up with all the staff, especially while I'm here in town, in the middle of the week. Courtney's keeping my dance card pretty full. Meeting with everybody, trying to catch up on the bigger projects. Talked to folks today about the water main project on Lawrence Road, and and then doing some stuff out in the field, trying to get a handle on what exactly the Herring River project looks like. Having a good time getting through lots of sort of updates on what's going on around with projects, and kind of looking at some of the financial process stuff behind the scenes as I go. So
a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff going on. It's all good.
Okay. So topics for future discussion. Thank you, Maria.
Good. Thank you.
Helen.
Yeah. So Janet, remember at our last meeting, there was some stuff you wanted put in the policy about correspondence. And there were two things we identified at the end of that discussion. And then I was rooting around in the policies, partly because of looking up the building policy and two others. And guess what? I think we need a little bit of a look at for the policies, because for one thing, we could make them all gender neutral, which the charter now requires. You know, the charter says we're select board, we're not Board of Selectmen anymore. And that's kind of a, you just go through and you change those words and it's very easy. But in order to change those policies, we have to do it in the formal way that we make or change policies. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to do the correspondence issues that Janet brought up, which I drafted, and then I came on this other stuff. And then there are a couple of the policies, and Harry Turkanian and Courtney and I, or no, it was Michaela Miteva when she was here. We went through the policies and we made an index with them, and then, the board approved them. We kind of cleaned them up, brought them up to date. And there's some things in there that we missed. There's some policies that actually don't have accurate titles. And so I would suggest that for a future concern, I can get that together. It's not so hard. And that we do the formal policy procedure, which is, you bring it up and then I forget what it is. It goes back and forth twice. We have to meet on it twice. So that's one of my future concerns.
Ellen, can you send just the correspondence policy, or we can, maybe Courtney can?
Yeah, no, of course. But what I'm saying is for a future agenda item, and this is not super time sensitive, that we do all that stuff at one time. And some of it's housekeeping, and the change of the correspondence thing is more essential. I think we should do that soon.
Yeah, that's fine. Janet.
So this was brought up tonight, but I already had it on my list. I think to help clarify the public's idea of the bike trail and the bike lane is the Bike and Walkways Committee has said that they have an alternative plan. And it was nice to hear Superintendent Karlstrom say that he's willing to work with them. So I would like the chair to ask them to come to our, probably not our next meeting because that's like right before town meeting, but really maybe by the end of September, to present the work they've done and what's possible. Rebecca Noble had said that they have a plan and that it's workable. So I think it would be good to get it out there.
Okay, bike and walkways. I think that's a good idea. Okay, so we'll just contact them, and I would say after town meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
End of September or something. Okay. And Ryan?
Yeah, so it was something that, I don't know, I've noticed. The planning board has not met since the beginning of the emergency. They have not, they're supposed to, in the town charter, the planning 8-6-2, the planning board shall make recommendations to the town meeting and to the town administrator on all matters concerning the physical, economic, and environmental development of the town. So they're in the charter, they are supposed to make recommendations on articles that are within their jurisdiction. I don't think that COVID is going away anytime soon, but they really need to meet before town meeting so that they can at least issue the recommendations on the floor.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Ryan, they did make their recommendations in the warrant for things. I'm looking at it now, and everything where they needed a recommendation, it was submitted. So they have not met since COVID began. That is correct. And eventually, if something does come on their docket, they do need to meet. But with regards to town meeting warrant articles, they have made their recommendations and they're in the final warrant.
I don't see them.
I'm on the town website right now looking at it, and it's planning board on Article 26, Article 28. That's where their names are mentioned.
26 is withdrawn.
Well, I'm looking at the final warrant, and that's what it said. So we can look again, but
Courtney, do you know, can they make a recommendation without meeting?
no, they can't. They have to meet and recommend on it. Article 28, disposition of town land to Conservation Commission. Planning Board recommends 5-0. Article 27, sorry, disposition of town land to Conservation Commission. Planning Board recommends 5-0.
So that must have been an old recommendation.
I don't know what Ryan's looking at because we sent him, I told him where it was on the town website.
No, I just mean when they made that recommendation, if they haven't met, they must have made that.
If you remember though, we started doing the warrant preparations back in February and early March before COVID took place. So they made all of their recommendations before COVID took place.
Okay.
The matter of them not meeting since COVID has arisen is definitely a different topic for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'd like to discuss then as I'm coming up.
Okay. We've never had a discussion about committees not meeting, but it's just never come up before, I guess.
Michael?
That I've been on the board. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Mike, it's appropriate for us to discuss it with them, actually, because we have a really good policy that says we can't tell a board how to vote or a committee how to vote, but we can say, hey, you're not minding the charter or the state law. We can sort of wave our hands at them and say, you're not complying. We can shake our fingers at them formally about that because of our policy. It's a really good policy. It's one of my favorites. Not that I like
finger policy.
Read it. It's cool.
Okay. All right. Fine. Why don't we have the planning board at a meeting then?
Yeah. And are they getting applications and they're not meeting? Maybe they're not subdivision.
Future concerns.
Oh, you're right. Thank you, Janet. Sorry.
Thank you, Janet. I was losing steam. I had to jump on Helen about it. Okay. Any more?
Yeah, this is Justina. This is really brief. I think that we had a very good discussion with the Tuesday emergency management team at our last meeting about how interested they were in continuing and making it maybe an institutionalized meeting, even if once a month. And somebody mentioned instead of written report, somebody said in addition, and so forth. I don't think we had a chance to hear from Maria. I can't remember. So I thought perhaps we could either in next meeting or the meeting afterwards revisit that. I'd like to revisit it shortly and keep that going if that's the decision before it peters out, because those kinds of meetings don't tend to work, and we've got something good going on, and I'd like to give it a shot. So that would be emergency management team meeting. Do we continue with input from Maria?
Discussion. Okay.
Yeah, to discussion.
All right. Anything else?
Not right now.
Okay. So, if anything comes up, just shoot Courtney and I an email that you want to put on the agenda. And so far, everything that's been requested has been put on, and we're at about 3.5 hours tonight. So this is within acceptable time frame, especially with what we discussed. So let's go to the correspondence report.
Did all of you can you hear me? It's Helen.
Yeah, I hear you, Helen.
I bet you do. Thank you. Did we all get copied with a letter that came from the Bartletts just before the last meeting, the people that live on the sluice? Did we all get that, or did they
we all got it, I think.
Okay, good. Because I got it in a special envelope. And
I don't think we all got that.
I didn't get it.
No, I think that those were addressed to 2 individual members of the board. Therefore, we put them in your mailbox.
That was
So-
the written letter. Yeah.
If either of you could scan them or bring in a copy for me, we can take care of that.
I'll do two things. I'll find out if that's okay with them and say that the rest of us
Well, you've
would
brought
like
it
to
up.
look
Now
at
it has to be public
because-
record, Helen.
Okay.
Now that it was brought up,
No,
Helen.
it's only when it's addressed to the whole board.
Okay, well.
No, it's
when you
only when
figure it
it's
out, let me
addressed to the
know.
whole. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, any other correspondence reports? We obviously got a lot of correspondence on the bike path. It's a hot topic every quarter. So I think we're listening to the concerns of the residents of Wellfleet, and yeah, that's all I really have on correspondence. Okay, are we done with that? Let's move on to minutes. August 11th.
I move that we approve the minutes of August 11th, 2020.
Second.
Ellen abstain.
Justina approve.
Janet, yes.
Aye.
Michael, aye. Okay, approved. Motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Helen second. Helen, aye. Out of here.
Thank you,
Justina,
Michael.
aye.
Ryan, aye.
Aye.
Sleep
Thank
well.
you, Michael.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank
Have
you
a good
all.
night.
All right, have a good night.